Welcome to John Pye Auctions, the nation's favourite online auction house. In our online auctions, you can get everything you need, whether it's fashion, furniture, tech or white goods, all at a price you decide. Auction lots include a mix of ex-display, clearance, end-of-line, retail returns, insolvency stock and failed deliveries, plus fully functional lots covered by a John Pye warranty. Bidding online is quick and easy, so visit johnpye.co.uk to place your bids today.
Hello, good evening and a very warm welcome to Trent Bridge Live. Yes, it is Vitality Blast action here at Trent Bridge, and as you can see, I am joined by Lyndon James. He was on commentary radio yesterday. We've upgraded you today in front of a camera. You did so well. LJ, how are we?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. Yeah, and I enjoyed my little commentary stint yesterday. It was only meant to be 20 minutes, but ended up being the whole inning, so yeah, I enjoyed it.
Has anybody told you how long you're on this for?
No.
Anyway, tonight's opponents are Lancashire Lightning. Now, I'll just update you on the toss. It happened about half an hour ago. Dan Christian won that toss and he has chosen to bowl. Just your thinking on that choice?
I think it's something that we've been really successful at over the years. Like chasing scores has always been our strength. You know, Trent Bridge is a fast scoring ground, fast outfield, shorter boundaries, good wickets. So, you know, it's something that's suited us for a number of years, so I'm not surprised at it again.
I mean, today we've had rain, you know, about an hour and a half ago. It absolutely tipped it down here. It's a little bit cloudy, a little bit of wind about. It's kind of getting Lancs to put a target on the board. Do you think that's potentially the right way so we can chase it down a little bit later?
I think so, because you just don't know how the wicket's quite going to play with the rain that's been in the air. So it's good to get an idea of what par is and then, yeah, go try chase it.
Okie dokie. Well, let's update you on the Notts Outlaws selected 11 for this fixture. Alex Hales currently averages just over 42 against Lancashire. He wears number 10. Joe Clark, when the time comes, he will be opening the batting with Alex Hales. That's Joe Clark. Ben Duckett currently on a strike rate of 171.42. Ben Duckett wears 17. We talk about him pretty much every T20 here at Notts. It's Samit Patel. Tom Moores, 3 catches with the gloves this campaign for Tom Moores. The captain, Dan Christian, once again will captain the Notts Outlaws this evening. Club captain Stephen Mullaney, he wears number 5 and he will bat in the middle of the order. Matthew Carter currently making his 40th appearance in T20 for Notts this evening. Luke Fletcher needs 3 wickets for 100 T20 wickets for Nottinghamshire. Luke Fletcher, number 19. Dane Patterson is the one change for this fixture. The South African makes his first appearance of the season. And finally, Jake Ball will bring up the rear. Number 11, Jake Ball in this Nottinghamshire Outlaws selected 11. OK, so that was the 11 that will face Lancashire Lightning. That one change, Lyndon, Dane Patterson, what will he bring to the 11?
Obviously got a wealth of experience in T20 cricket back over in South Africa. He's played a few T20s for South Africa as well. Got great variations, balls with good pace, so yeah, and he can whack it at the end, so yeah, he should bring an all-round package hopefully to the side.
And a little bit of character.
Yeah, exactly. we always get passion with Dane, so
we certainly do. Now, something that we have on the stream on Trent Bridge Live, we have a player to watch during the T20 campaign. Tonight is Samit Patel. He only needs 9 more runs to reach 25,000 career runs. I mean, we talk about Samit pretty much every day when it's T20, but just explain from somebody in that dressing room what Samit brings to it.
Well, he's had an incredible career. He's on nearly 25,000 runs. I mean, I've grown up watching him. So ever since I was a little boy coming to watch, and he's been incredible both bat and ball in all formats of the club, and obviously the energy he brings, he's especially happy at the minute after Forest won on Sunday, so but no, he's the life and soul of the dressing room and all the lads love him.
Now, I've been told by Leon Price, the strength and conditioning coach, you just mentioned it, I wasn't going to mention it, but do you want to update everybody on who you support?
Yeah, look, I'm a Sheffield United fan. Obviously, unfortunately, came out in second place in the playoff semi-final. And obviously, seeing Forest go up to the Premier League, it's bittersweet. I've been a Nottingham boy all my life, but I do support Sheffield United. So, yeah, look, I'm happy they're in the Premier League. Got a couple of mates that play for Forest, but obviously, I'd love it to have been Sheffield United.
You've been very polite, to be fair. You have been very polite about it. Now, one person who played against Lancashire Lightning last year had a very, very, very good day. Let's have a look. Okay, so that was Alex Hales, the Notts opener. Lyndon, last year, 101 not out, 12 fours, 4 sixes, a strike rate of 153.303, sorry. I mean, what can you say about that innings? It's not very often a Notts opener carries their bat, is it?
No, especially in T20 cricket, look, he batted beautifully. People talk about T20 hundreds being very special, and obviously that was a very special not last year. I was lucky to witness it myself here. He's obviously just been voted by Vitality Blast player of the whole Blast, hasn't he? Over the 20 years he's been involved, so shows how good a player he is, and how he's developed his game as he's got older, and he fully hit all around the ground. Obviously, he showed that last year.
For somebody like yourself, you're still young. Even though you've been around for a couple of seasons now. When somebody like Alex Hales, Samit Patel come into the team, what do they bring to you youngsters?
Just a wealth of knowledge, really. I think it's pretty simple. They've been there, done that. They've played in every kind of situation. So you've got to try and tap into that knowledge, so that when you get into those situations, it's a bit easier for you.
Just finally, while we've got you, obviously you're in the squad, you're in and around the team, you play in the seconds when the chances come in a T20. What's your view on trying to get into this team, into the 11? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, look, I want to play all formats. I think everyone does. But I think, as Sol said, it's one of the hardest teams in the country to get into. We've been so successful in white ball cricket over the years. Look, my spot would probably be as kind of an all-rounder in the team. And obviously having DC as captain makes that very difficult to get into, but I want to bide my time, make sure that when I do get my chance I take it and try and stay in the team.
And just finally, the crowd's starting to fill up, running through the team now, a couple of minutes away from the start of play. Nerves going, excitement?
Yeah, the boys will be buzzing. You start to get the adrenaline going, especially when the fireworks go off and the fire machine's going. Yeah, that adrenaline does start rushing through you.
Okie dokie, Lyndon. Well, you're going to join us at the interval stage as well. Thank you very much for this. All right. Okay, we are literally a couple of minutes away from the start of play here. Notts won the toss. They will be coming out to bowl first. Lancashire openers will be out very, very soon with the umpires. It's now time for me to hand you over to the commentary team. That is Dave Bracegirdle and Colin Frey.
He's run the long road back. It's great to see Jake Hall. And first time in these colours for this season, welcome Dave Patterson. Your Notts Outlaws. Now your turn. Are you ready to be more Outlaws?
A very good evening and welcome to Trent Bridge as the Nottinghamshire Outlaws are greeted by fireworks and flares going up from around the outfield. My name's Colin Frey. Alongside me are the former Notts captain Paul Johnson, and Dave Bracegirdle is here as well, the BBC Radio Museum cricket commentator and correspondent, as Nottinghamshire take to the field in their gold shirts and green trousers, and they have won the toss, Nottinghamshire, and decided to have a bowl first. So it'll be Lancashire who are opening the batting. Their two opening batsmen making their way out to the middle, the same pitch as we were using for last night's game, which only lasted for 18 overs in the end against Northamptonshire because of the weather. Thankfully, that's a lot better tonight. There are some clouds around, but they are a lot higher and a lot less threatening than they were yesterday. I'm going to leave Dave Bracegirdle and Paul Johnson to describe the the Lancashire Lightning kit for you as we're about to get underway with, as I say, Notts bowling and Lancashire batting. Good luck with this, guys.
Yes, your fashion correspondent's here. A very good evening. Thank you, Colin. Lancashire batting. Just one quick pointer on the Notts 11, a change. They had the same 11 for the first two matches, but this evening Calvin Harrison, the leg spinner, misses out. Dane Patterson plays. Matt Carter is going to get us underway. That's I think that's a constant. I think he started last night. I beg your pardon, he started on Friday night. Of course, Notts didn't get a bowl last night. The two batsmen at the crease, Phil Salt, who's ventured north, having left Sussex last winter, and Keaton Jennings, who Notts know an awful lot about from his time with Durham, and of course he's had a couple of years with Lancashire now. We will bring Paul in to comment on this kit in just a moment. Our umpires are David Milnes and Ian Blackwell. It's Milnes at the pavilion end. He sticks his arm out, telling Matt Carter just to hang on a second, and we're underway. Knots in the green and gold, and the first ball is helped away for 4. Almost a regulation loosener from Matt Carter down the leg side there, helped away for 4. Lancashire up and running. Good evening, Paul Johnson.
Good evening, Dave. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, a long hop, outside leg stump to start with, dispatched through backward square leg quite comfortably for 4. Start proceedings. Yeah, the kit, I saw it a couple of weeks ago in a second 11 game, and it's a cross of flamingo and salmon, not necessarily in that order. Carter
to bowl to Salt, and he's lapped it away again down towards the long leg. First bit of work for Dane Patterson to do. Replace all divots, please. As all golfers know, Patterson slid across there, and clearly his studs have removed quite a clump of turf. Yeah, just to pick up on the Lancashire colours, it's certainly not a brilliant bright red, not a Nottingham Forest red, and I say that because we understand several members of the side are here, as this next one is just swept fine Samit Patel fields, and Luke Fletcher has clearly just seen them. He's down here at our end of the ground fielding, and he's just been waving to them all. I think they're on the balcony of one of the hospitality boxes down below us. 6 without loss. This is a fine start, and there's going to be more runs here as Salt sweeps it onto the leg side. Good work by the South African Patterson. He's saved 3 runs there, certainly. Just a single to Salt, Lightning a 7.
Yeah, brave, bowling around the wicket to the short side to the right-hander. The Hound Road side of the ground is a lot shorter than over to the Bridgeford Road side tonight, and Carter's just dished up 1 or 2 freebies there. He's got away with a couple. First ball went for 4, but he'll be looking to the left-hander, bowling to the big side to make sure he gets his line right.
So it's Keaton Jennings on strike, and the left-hander is just had a little bit of difficulty. He's got his back to us there. He pushed at that one from Carter rather tentatively. Always struggle with that word, Paul, tentatively. Just ran it to Samit at short third, and there's no run. Carter in again to Jennings, and he tries a rather ambitious reverse. Here's Fletcher, shies it down to the far end, but the batsman was always going to get home. It's a leg by 8 from that first over. In a sense, a little bit of a comeback for Matt Carter. His first ball being just larruped away for 4 runs. Lightning are up and running, 8 without loss. Just a little bit of news actually regarding a member of the Lightning side. Of course, all Notts supporters will be well aware of Luke Wood. Had 6 or 7 very successful years here at Trent Bridge before moving to Old Trafford. Congratulations to Luke, formerly of this parish, because he's been selected for England today for the first time. They've got 3 ODIs in the Netherlands forthcoming. He's one of 4 Lancashire players who've been selected, but no Notts players. And again, I can only say, well, they've not been watching Ben Duckett bat this season, clearly, or certainly they have, and they don't value the performances he's churned out as much as I do. I still say he's the best number 3 in the country, but we all have our opinions. Going to be Luke Fletcher, Paul.
Yeah, Fletcher from the Ruddy Road end.
Got a 5 for here on Friday evening. He had a little bit of tap before he got his first wicket, and then things fell in place nicely. I think he'd be the first to admit things went his way. Here's Fletcher, bowling to Keaton Jennings, who drives it, fielded by the bowler, and trying to push that through the offside, and dragged it back in the direction of Fletcher, who fields in his follow-through. 8 without loss.
Crowd catch.
Not the biggest of crowds, but once again, in different weather forecast. I think they sort of estimated between 5,000 and 6,000 last night. You'd say something similar here as Fletcher bowls, hit away for 4. Keaton Jennings has dragged this through the onside between mid-wicket and mid-on. Gets it away for the second boundary of the innings. 12 without loss.
Yeah, length ball, just swung his way through it. Went between mid-wicket and mid-on. Just the length just enabled him to get his arms free and whacked it through onto that short leg side boundary.
Both of these sides have taken 3 points from their first 2 games. They've both defeated Worcestershire, as Fletcher in again to Keaton Jennings will force this out into the offside. Jake Ball comes in from the rope and fields 13 without loss. Jennings on to 6. Phil Salt has 7. Lancashire defeated Worcestershire at Old Trafford on Friday evening. Of course, Notts had also defeated Worcestershire, and the Lankies had a tie with Yorkshire. Notts rained off last night, so they both got 3 points. 13 without loss. Fletcher to Salt for the first time. Welsh-born, 25 years of age, made his England debut during the winter. Phil Salt in white ball cricket is a push and run up to Mullaney at mid-off, and he takes a single, moves on to 8. 14 without loss.
Yeah, I think umpire Blackwell's just had a little word with him there. As he hit, just ran straight down the middle of the wicket. I think it's been used 2 or 3 times.
I was just going to say,
I don't think they want them trolling up and down the middle of it. That I think the 5th ball of the over at the other end from Carter spun to the left-hander.
Had 39 overs on it on Friday evening and 18 last night as Fletcher bowls, and he's helped away through the onside again by Keaton Jennings. It was very much a stand and deliver sort of shot from Keaton Jennings. It was ugly in truth, but highly effective. Just dragged it away towards the Fox Road stand, and it clatters into that wall. And 4 more to Keaton Jennings, who's on to 9. 18 without loss, Lightning.
Yeah, it didn't seem to have a lot on it from Fletch there. It was just length, really, and he just baseball swatted it away, didn't he, really? Just looked like it was sort of just put there rather than the way he normally runs in and hits the deck hard or tries to get that Yorker. It was just a pretty ineffectual sort of length ball that he swung away onto the leg side.
Far from a glorious evening, but we have got a little bit of blue sky overhead as Fletcher bowls again to Keaton Jennings, and he'll this time punch a short delivery from Fletcher through the offside. Just brought his bat down on it and guided it away into the spaces on the offside for the 3rd boundary in the over. Disappointing start from Luke Fletcher, went for 14 in that over, and Lightning put in by Dan Christian. 22 without loss after 2 overs.
Yeah, just missed his lengths, and even with that last one, I think he tried to bowl into the pitch a slower ball, and it just seemed to stick in, and picked by Jennings, beat the infield on the offside. So they had men back on the offside and then switched it around because he got hit over on the leg side and then got hit the other side. So a pretty indifferent start first up from Fletch.
Samit Patel made a very attractive half century last night, out for 63. In doing so, he went past 6,000 runs in this format. He's, I understand, the one to watch this evening. Those of you watching the live stream will have heard Aaron pointing him as the likely match winner for the Outlaws. He bowls to Phil Salt, who goes down on one knee trying to lap it away, gets nothing on it. They're good mates, this pair. They've played a lot of franchise cricket together around the world. Samit tells me almost wherever he goes, it seems that either Phil Salt gets signed straight after he does, or vice versa, but they've spent quite a lot of time together in some far-flung places. As Patel comes in again, Paul just checking the amount of fielders outside the circle. Let's hope there's only 2. Here's one of them, Duckett, coming in from deep mid-wicket, and Salt takes a single. 23 without loss.
I was just checking the 5-4 split. It's not very often you see a left arm round the wicket to a right-hander with only one back who's at cow corner. I was just seeing if there was someone sort of out of our vision down in this corner, but having a good count round. It was a different field. He must have...
Like I say, they know each other very well, and maybe Salt knew what Patel was going to do and Patel knew what Salt was going to do. He comes in now to Keaton Jennings, who runs this to backward point. They'll take a single, fielded by Dane Patterson. Interesting change of strategy then for Notts this evening. They've lost nothing in the field because Dane Patterson's also a very good fielder, but bringing in the quick bowler for the leg spinner Harrison. A little bit of a change in thinking as this is worked away on the onside by Salt for a single. Duckett again fields. 25 without loss now. A couple of balls left in the 3rd over.
Yeah, I think the fact that the 2nd over was as good as it was is just giving him a little bit of leeway here to play Samit in this one. I thought he missed out on that first ball, probably should have been 4, but they're pegging it back a little bit now.
Jennings has 14. He's at this down the ground to Joe Clark. He'll only get a single. 26 with Outlaws. Yes, we had 39 overs here on Friday evening on this particular strip, and 18 last night. What's that, about 57 overs old then? One or two just started to go a little bit last night as Salt nudges this up to Hales at mid-on. And that's a steady enough start from Samit Patel. He and Knotts will be pleased with that. Just 5 from it, Paul. 27 without loss after 3.
Yeah, good comeback after the over before. As I say, I think the Lancashire Lightning players will be quite happy with the fact that, you know, we've got through the first 3 overs at 9 and over without losing a wicket. It's a pretty healthy start, and I think that second over just gave them leeway really just to play that over, and I think they might see Samit as a match turner, a match winner themselves, Dave. So to get an over out the way after a good one is a pretty good return for both sides.
Here's Jake Ball. Took 2 for 24 on Friday evening against Worcestershire. In doing so, became the 4th Outlaws bowler to reach 100 wickets in this format for the club. 4th different bowler used by Dan Christian. There's still himself and Stephen Mullaney and Dane Patterson. So plenty of options. Ball from the Radcliffe Road end.
I think we'll see quite a lot of cutters bowled tonight. There's a couple of balls there from Samit Patel as well that turned and just seemed to stick in the wicket a little bit.
Bowling to Salt, 2 out on the leg side. Jake Ball bowls, and that's been nicked through to Tom Moores, and first delivery that he sends down this evening is a successful one, a wicket-taking one. Jake Ball right on the money. How good it is to see him back fit and well and doing what he does best, taking wickets. Lancashire 27 for 1.
Yeah, good ball, right on the money, just outside off stump length, just nipped away a fraction. It looked like it did from here anyway, and he just tried to hit the ball on the up, and just a regulation nick through. Quite an interesting stance after. He seemed to just turn his back on the umpire, go remark his guard, turn around as if to say what's happening there, and Blackwell's finger went up, came down, and as he turned around it went back up again. So off he goes. It seemed a basic regulation nick through, and the new batsman is the danger man, Liam Livingstone.
Yeah, danger man, and he's coming to a ground that he's had recent success. If you can go back to sort of last August when he scored 103 here against Pakistan in a T20 international, made from just 43 balls with 6 fours and 9 sixes. A couple of centuries in this format, averages around about 29 though. Recent success in the IPL as well, and playing in the Big Bash, very much in demand around the world. Hit some big balls. He's on strike. Jake Ball having struck with his first delivery, now to bowl to the new man Liam Livingstone. 27 for 1. Lancashire in their salmon pink strip, and that could have been perhaps a caught and bowl, but also just a flashback to Edgbaston and Luke Fletcher. It was very close to his head. It whizzed back past him very, very quickly.
Nearly had a reverse Mohican. Took the middle section of his hair out, a bit like mine. Probably mine's a little bit more of a wider centre parting than that would have been.
Just wonder how close it was to him actually. I mean, he was just starting to fall away, wasn't he, Jake Ball, in his follow through, but it was coming back very, very quickly.
I'm surprised he didn't stick something up, but I suppose it took him totally by surprise.
Danger man Livingstone away with 4. He guides this down to Samit at 3rd in front of the Hound Road stand, and Lancashire are 32 for 1. Liam Livingstone's snuck up at number 3. Stephen Croft has been batting there in the first couple of games. Then Dane Vilas, Tim David, the dangerous Australian, Luke Wood, Danny Lamb, Tom Hartley, the slow left-arm spinner, Richard Gleeson and Matt Parkinson. It's a strong-looking side, but they've got a
really strong top 5, isn't it?
It is indeed. They've got a poor record at Trent Bridge, though. Let's hope that continues. They've lost 9 in a row here as ball is in to Keaton Jennings. Took pace off that one, and Jennings guides it through the leg side out to Dane Patterson, who spears it back into the gloves of Tom Moores. 33 for 1. We're in the 4th over. Conditions thankfully set fair right now. I think it did look as if once we'd got past the sort of 5-6 o'clock possibility of showers, we should be okay, but
Had some heavy showers today.
we have indeed. Livingston back on strike, has 5. Jake Ball to bowl to him. This has tickled fine, and Luke Fletcher in the right place at the right time. Up inside the ring at short fine. He shies at the stumps. Don't like to see that when the batsman hasn't gone anywhere, because it can just deflect off a bail and run away for overthrows. But on this occasion, Luke wide of the mark. Did execute a direct run out at Lords in the championship match. Luke, he's had a little bit of success doing that over the last 2 or 3 years. Here's ball into Livingston. Again, it's chopped down to Patel. So a successful over for Jake Ball. Liam Livingston will keep strike. He came in for the second ball of that over after Phil Salt had been dismissed, caught behind off ball for 11 when the score was 27. After 4 overs, it's 34 for 1.
Yeah, steady over. Nice to pick a wicket up in the first 6. It'd be nice for the Notts Outlaws to sneak another one, and for the 5th consecutive over, 5th consecutive change of bowling, Dane Patterson.
It's his first appearance of, as Colin Hazelden has just mentioned, over the Tannoy system here. His first match of this campaign. Had a terrific performance here in the championship match against Worcestershire, where he got an 8 for the first time in his career. He's been in very good form with the red ball. His last white ball action was the quarter-final last year. Of course, he was last out, Notts needing 4 to win in the final over. He comes in and bowls, and Liam Livingston has just teed off there. Well, he's belted that down the first fairway. 350 yards for 4. Patterson ran in, bowled it full, just outside off stump, and there was enough room for Livingston to get those long levers out, and he just punched it back with interest. He's on to 10 from just 5 balls, 38 for 1.
Yeah, good calculated gamble from Livingston first ball, anticipating that Patterson would probably start with length, came down the wicket, made it into a full half volley and dispatched it over long off.
There's Patterson again, South African former test bowler, into Livingston. This one just nips back, cramps him up for style. That's or cramps him up for room rather. That is Patterson's particular forte, the one that just nibbles back into the right-hander.
Yeah, just change his length, not too radically, because he can't, because fine legs up, square legs up, there's no cover behind square, well, right the way round on the leg side to quite a straightish mid-wicket, so he can't drag his length back too far, otherwise he'll be dispatched into the Fox Road stand.
Fletcher at third man, duck it at deep mid-wicket, are the 2 out, and this time it's hit back, and this time Dane Patterson has got something on it, says he's okay.
It's a good job, I think, where it hit him.
He says he's okay. It's struck him somewhere.
Mid-drift.
Joe Clark's the first to get across and put an arm round him. He saved some runs there.
Yep, it's one of those. No, I'm not going to say it. Too dangerous, Dave.
Hand onto thigh, maybe?
Yeah, I think he got a little bit. He took a little bit off it with a forearm, and yeah, hit him mid-drift-ish.
Livingston made a good connection, as you perhaps would have heard if you're just listening to the audio, not following the pictures. Hit it into the ground, and this time it did strike Dane Patterson, who just couldn't get out of the way. So Jake Ball avoided injury in the first over. Dane Patterson struck there. I think he'll have a bruise, but he's okay. Comes in to bowl the 4th ball of the over to Livingston, who pushes it back to him rather gently this time, and Patterson a relieved man. This could be anything if Livingston stays there for the next 15 or so overs. Notts need him out.
You know, if you match these two sides up, you say it's pretty well matched, wouldn't you? The top 5, both explosive on both sides. I think Notts probably bat a little bit deeper, but that explosive top 5 is in evidence here.
Patterson bowls, he's hit this one down the ground for 6, into the pavilion. 1 or 2 people just getting out of the way, but they've no need. It's gone all over their heads and into the black tarpaulin that's been put up in front of the committee rooms. Yeah,
yeah, just on the bottom of that. That's a decent nudge out there. Certainly used his feet, and I think we've seen it a little bit tonight, that it's almost baseball style swatted straight. He seems to like almost hitting a crossbat shot dead straight, and it's very effective.
Wasn't at Trent Bridge for that century against Pakistan last year, but from what I remember on the TV, there were a few of those straight back towards the pavilion. And again, Patterson responds and comes back. I mean, the over will tell its own story. I think there are about a dozen that went from it in the end. We've got crowd shots on the big screen. I'm sure we'll come back in just a moment with the score, but Dane Patterson relieved, I think, to get through that over with a dot at the end of the over. There'll be more thoughts from Paul Johnson. It is 44 for 1, and then bring you through the next 5 overs on commentary. It's Colin Fray.
Yeah, 4 dot balls in that over and the 2 boundaries. So he went for 10, but within that there were 4 dot balls, which you say at the start of the over you're going to bowl 4 dot balls, you'd be fairly happy, but you probably don't bank on one going for 6 and one going for 4.
Jake Ball continuing from the Radcliffe Road end, and that's cut away behind square, and it's just a single this time for Jennings, and it's 45 for 1.
Yeah, great fielding down there from Duckett, made 20 yards to his right, got round it, and Jennings was definitely coming back, but I think Livingston fancies a bit of Jake Ball here. He wasn't going to run under any circumstances, and probably in this last over you'd probably want Livingston facing most of it.
Looks like he's made a good start, hasn't he, here, Livingston? And he's got a chance to face Jake Ball here, and this one rises up at him, and he's having to content himself just by nudging it down onto the onside, and Clark runs into field and they take a single.
Rain.
And it's raining. Well, where's that? I mean, it's obvious where it's come from. Yeah.
But the sun's out.
Sun's out. It's raining. Dan Christian is stood with his hands in his pockets saying,
why
on earth are we going off for this? I mean,
well, we can't see what's behind us, can we? Over to the left, over the Vale of Beaver way, it looks awful.
Yeah.
However, as you sort of sweep round in front and go across to East Midlands Airport, it looks nice, so it must be coming in from the back of us. The sun is absolutely glaring now. There is light drizzle, and I would say that they've probably been a little bit hasty in going off, unless it looks like Armageddon behind us. But the hover cover's coming out and they're taking precaution.
Got to be honest, I think it's stopped already. I mean, I'm looking now against the
very light,
the black sight screens
very
at the
light
far
in
end.
the bottom half of it, yeah. But
I really can't see much at all. So they've gone off for, I mean, some of them have gone off for rain.
Yeah,
Dan Christian and Stephen Mullaney are stood in them.
Samet's going back the other way. He's obviously coming to help with the covers. Two of them,
bizarre situation.
Two of them, as you say, are stood in the middle. So there can't be too much behind us, Colin. If those two guys are stood there, I don't know.
The umpires have not even left the field yet.
Meandering, aren't they?
They sort of keep looking over their shoulder. And there's 1 or 2 umbrellas up. There's a few umbrellas starting to go up now.
Those are interesting shoes that umpire Blackwell is wearing. They're shining.
They're very shiny, aren't they?
They are, and I nearly mentioned earlier they look like clown shoes. They look about size 17 when he was out there, but as he went off, they must have mirrors on the side of him. They were very interesting. But coming back to this, sun's out, guns out, covers on. What's happening?
This is weird, isn't it? I mean, it is.
It is.
The sun is as bright as it's been all the way through the night.
That
so
way,
far.
Over to the north east of us here, it's not great.
No, and there's a rainbow out there as well. There was a rainbow last night when it was pouring with rain here. There's a faint one over there towards.
But all around us,
the Vale of Beaver.
Easy for you to say.
Yes, thank you for picking up on that. Yeah, this is this is weird because it is still very lightly raining, but the sun is completely bright, really bright. Paul's going to nip out to the back of the stand and have a look and see what the situation is like, and see what the cloud is like that's sort of coming from behind us, if you like, because that's the that obviously is the way it's coming from, because we had no indication that this cloud was on its way. As it's coming more over Trent Bridge now, you can kind of see that it is, you can see why it was delivering some rain, but really not a very great deal. And straight away, I think we've got the indication to the ground staff from the umpires, who hadn't gone very far. Oh, I thought they'd given the okay to get the hover cover going and get it off again. Jono's back from having done his quick meteorological check. That's easy for you to say as well. How's it looking, Jono?
It's fine over Bill's Mothers.
Well, that's good news. I mean, it really doesn't look like it's raining
I would say
much, if at all, now.
Over the back of the council house, around the back corner here, so probably Nottingham Castle way, it looks a little bit dark, but that looks like it's sort of sliding down, and from the back of the Premier League ground at the back of us, it looks clear as a bell.
You enjoyed that, didn't
I
you?
did.
You enjoyed that a very great deal. Here come the umpires again, back out to the middle. This really is going to be one of those situations where no sooner have they got the cover on, and it is only the hover cover, there's none of the sheets covering the rest of the square or anything like that. They will be very quickly back out, I think. I can't see that we're going to lose much time here at all. Two Lancashire batsmen had sat in their dugout down beneath the big Batman scoreboard away on the far side of Trent Bridge. All the Notts players are still out there as well. Nobody's headed back to the dressing room. And umpires have come and had a quick chat with the ground staff. And I really don't think it's going to be too long at all before we see play back here underway at Trent Bridge, with Lancashire on 46 for 1. We're in the 6th over, the final power play over, and Livingston has 17, Jennings has 17. They both have 17, and they both have faced 11 balls.
Yeah, it's quite strange, isn't it? You'd say that, you know, if you just looked at 17 apiece from what we've seen, you'd say that Livingston's had at least 3 or 4 balls less.
Yeah.
But that, I suppose that over of Fletcher's, where I think he tucked into, was it 3 4s in 3 balls? I think that sort of upped it a little bit, but the explosive smack down the ground from Livingston of 6 sort of seems to take you in one direction, that he is very, very dangerous, whereas the guy at the other end is as well, but in a slightly different way, more conventional way.
He has certainly looked a dangerous player, Livingston. We all know that he's a dangerous player. He has looked in good nick. Just wonder if this little break with 4 balls to go in the power play might just help to a certain extent the Notts cause. 46 for 1. Hover cover is, as we said, coming off. Bizarrely, the sun's gone in again now. So all the time the cover was on, the sun was out brightly, and now the sun goes in again. But the rain has stopped, all the umbrellas are down, and the hover cover is coming off. Very soon we're going to join our listeners, going to be joined by listeners to BBC Radio Nottingham's FM frequencies.
Just looking at the Coco clown shoes on Ian Blackwell, they definitely are. They look enormous, don't they? And he's got there must be lights on the back of them.
Like those kiddie shoes, those trainers that light up when you
every time you put your foot down,
yeah.
light up at the back.
Well, the hover cover is virtually off. A couple of the ground staff, one of them driving a tractor round with a chap on the other end of a rope, which is just drying off the outfield as they go all the way around the boundary edge. And the batsmen are just about out again to the middle here at Trent Bridge. Set to resume then at 46 for 1, one of the most bizarre stoppages in play, especially in T20. You wouldn't normally stop in T20 for that very, very small drizzly shower.
Interesting, very interesting.
Jake Ball then.
Dave Milnes probably fancied a chuff on his cigar.
46 for 1, and Jake Ball
can't start for a minute because that rope is still on the outfield.
Yeah, I was going to say that he's got the tractor just off the outfield, but they're just untying the rope, and Just making sure. Tractor's got one wheel on the outfield at the moment, so that's moved away. And there's a little thumbs up to say, yep, that's out the way, and we can just about resume. Jake Ball going and retrieving his marker disc. As we welcome listeners to BBC Radio Nottingham's FM frequencies, with this one turned away for 6, hooked away over long leg by Keaton Jennings for Lancashire as we get back underway after a little rain delay here. We've had about 5 or 6 minutes with the players off the field. Jake Ball has just come and delivered that first ball since the resumption, and it's been dispatched away by Keaton Jennings high in the sky and down towards the Hound Road stand and into the Hound Road stand. And Jennings on to 23. Lightning are 52 for 1. Catch you up with what's happened so far in just a moment as Ball blows this next one to Jennings, who has a swipe at it outside the off stump and gets a thick edge, and it goes right through what would normally be a slip cordon and 4. And Paul Johnson alongside me. No sooner do we get back underway than Lancashire have added 10 in the first 2 balls after the resumption.
Yeah, the first one was not a great ball, sort of back of a length, slightly leg side, and he sort of donkey kicked it and he got a top edge, and it flew off that top edge way back into the stand, 6 or 8 rows back. And the next one he sort of overcompensated a little bit, but unfortunately got toe of the bat all the way along the floor through about 3rd slip.
Here's Ball again, and this is another swish, and is it caught behind? No, Tom Moores drops it. Jake Ball was already celebrating.
I think the keeper was as well. I think he was throwing it up before he caught it, and regulation, got nice steep bounce, thin edge through, around about head high, and looked like he was celebrating, and shelled it.
Already seen Moores behind the wicket take one catch off Jake Ball today. Jake Ball's first ball of the match, actually. As in he comes again to complete this over. The power play overs. This is nudged down to around about a short 3rd man on the edge of the circle. Luke Fletcher does the fielding. There is no run, and that is the end of the power play overs. The end of Jake Ball's 2nd over. 56 for 1. The 1 wicket to fall, as I mentioned, was Phil Salt, who went for 11. Caught behind the wicket off Jake Ball's first ball of the evening. This after Nottinghamshire won the toss and decided to have a bowl to put Lancashire in. Salt out for 11. Keaton Jennings, next man in, has 27, and Liam Livingston, the England man, is the danger man, or another of the danger men, and he's about to face this next ball from Samit Patel, whose first over went for 5.
Movement behind the bowler's arm in the members, still oblivious to it as he marches down for his seat.
Yeah, wandering
in your
down
own
the steps.
time, sir. But I think Lancashire will be far happier at this stage than Nottinghamshire Outlaws.
Yeah, good power play for them. Here's Samit Patel then, and Livingston is on the back foot, nudging this one up towards mid-wicket, and they just trot through for a single. 57 for 1. It's a good crowd in, decent crowd in, much better than yesterday. I suppose the thing with yesterday's match against Northamptonshire, which ended up as a no result anyway, it was rearranged, wasn't it, from Sunday because of the football.
I think people were still recovering from their hangovers.
Yeah. And a lot of people probably didn't buy tickets because it was going to clash with the football, then they moved it. Here's Samit Patel in to bowl to Jennings, prodding this one out towards square leg this time, and they trot through for a single. Yeah, 1 or 2 hangovers around Nottingham, do you think, last couple of days?
Yeah, probably. I was a good boy. I was just dusty.
First time for everything. Samit Patel is into Livingston, who has a swish at this outside the off stump, and it goes through Tom Moores, who's standing up to Samit Patel. Samit's not happy. He's got the double teapot on, but it has gone through for byes, a couple of them. Don't think anybody was happy with that. Bowler wasn't. The batsman thought he'd missed out. Wicketkeeper won't be happy at conceding byes. 60 for 1. Patel in around the wicket to Livingston again. This is prodded down towards Again, third man up inside the circle. Fletcher fields it straight at him. Dot ball. As usual, Samit Patel getting through his over quickly. In again to Livingston, and again this is played rather circumspectly to backward point.
It seems to me at the minute that they have a good over, and then when Samit comes on after the good over, they're just prepared to pick him off. Obviously they regard him and the spinners in general as being the danger tonight on a used pitch. It just seems they're very circumspect against the spinners.
Here's Patel. This is a reverse sweep attempt from Keaton Jennings. He's wrapped on the pad and it ends up squirting out completely the wrong way from where he intended it to go. But they do get a leg by as Luke Fletcher ends up doing the fielding. 62 for 1. Unorthodox end to the over. 7 overs have been bowled out of Lancashire's 20. 62 for 1, as I say, with Jennings on 28 and Livingston on 19.
Yeah, in the first power play 6 overs, there were, I always mark these down as the big overs, the ones that go double figures. There was a 14, a 10 in there and a 12, which really bolstered that 56 for 1. Should have been 56 for 2, but obviously the drop catch from Moores was, I'd say, unforgivable, but it, you know, it certainly should have been taken. It was straight to him, head high, and those sort of things do change matches. And you've got a man in now, Keaton Jennings, who's set 28 off 17 balls, and
dancing down the pitch to this next one from Carter.
He's set fair, isn't he?
Yeah.
And
well, when you've got a partnership with these two, you've got Livingston and Jennings,
you know,
and you have that chance to break it.
Yeah, Croft's next in, have been 2 right-handers, both really dangerous again, but you haven't got that messing about fields. You can settle in a little bit more and bowl, but yeah, it's not what you want. But Carter around the wicket now to Livingston, trying to create a little bit of angle across him and see if he can expose both edges.
This one is rearing up a little bit at Livingston. He just sways away and dabs it down square on the offside. Tom Moores runs around from behind the stumps and fields, get a single. But you're right, there's no real attacking of any of the spinners yet, is there, tonight? Here's Carter again. And again, just nudged off his hip this time by Jennings. Fielded by Samit Patel, just a single again.
Yeah, they might have had a policy here tonight of targeting the seamers, and if they do that well, then they can just play the spinners a little bit. I'm sure there will be a shot coming.
It's Carter again, yeah, down the pitch comes Livingston and gets nothing of it. Well, he gets a little bit of it.
Yeah, it was a moon ball. I think he saw him coming early, took the pace off it, gave it lots of flight, no pace to hit into, just turned a fraction inside edge onto pad. Yeah. Good awareness from Carter.
Yeah, thudded into his own pad from Livingston, who is deciding to just nudge this one round to square leg. Next ball.
Oh,
Clark fields.
Terrible throw. Moores did well to mop that up. There was no one backing up at all. It could have fizzed through for at least 2 more. I don't think it would have gone for 4, but it wasn't a great throw.
66 for 1. Carter in again, and Jennings leaves this one late before dabbing it down towards Clark again. Down at deep backward point. 67 for 1. That was very much a nudge and nurdle it kind of over against Matt Carter. 5 from it.
Interesting now to see what Dan does, because he could keep the spinners going. He's bowling Samit again, but what that does is obviously towards the back end it loads the seamers. So whether you play with keeping a spinner or 2 back, or whether you go again, but very interesting.
8 overs bowled, 67 for 1. It is BBC Radio Nottingham live from Trent Bridge. Myself, Colin Fray, with Paul Johnson and Dave Bracegirdle alongside me. Dave back with another stint of commentary in a couple of overs' time as Samit Patel's got the ball in his hand and comes round the wicket to Jennings, who dances a couple of paces down the pitch and plays it out onto the leg side. Again, just for a single, not looking for anything extravagant, even though it looked like he was shaping up that way. And Livingston back onto strike. He's just backing away from this one, prodding it into the same area of the pitch, which is his offside, into the covers, and Just a single again, and we have a repeat performance really of what we've seen in the last couple of overs, which is the left-hand right-hand combination just taking singles. But now here comes Jennings down the pitch, and he's hoisted this one away over mid-wicket, and first bounce it crosses the rope for 4. Got a lot of height on it. It was fairly safe because it was right in between two fielders, Ben Duckett and Joe Clark, operating on that onside boundary around the mid-wicket boundary, but neither of them could get anywhere near it. Well placed. And 4 for Jennings, 36 out of 73 for 1. Again, he's wandering all around the pitch and the crease as this one is played out onto the offside. And
what I liked about that shot from Jennings, he was in total control of it, and he used the man in the inner circle as virtually an area to go over the top of. Short and wide, got away with it.
Livingston cuts this one hard towards backward point. Ball does the fielding, and there's no run because it raced to the fielder.
Yeah, you can use the inner fielders as your target areas to go over the top of.
Because you know there's nobody behind
fielders and your hip pockets.
Patel to Livingston again. Livingston gets this one a bit further away, but again it's straight to fielder. Joe Clark coming in 10 yards or so from the boundary to do the fielding, so it's just a single again. Livingston, a couple of big hits early on in his innings. But, as we say, against the spinners, all a little bit more circumspect. 9 overs gone, 75 for 1.
I think we'll see some fireworks soon. You know, these last 3 overs only gone for 19, so, you know, pulling it back and with wickets in hand, I think they'll be having a chat now, saying, right, we can really push now. Introduction of seam again. Luke Fletcher coming on from the Radcliffe Road, didn't have a great first over. They'll probably say, right, we need to target him here. You know, he'll be trying to prove something. He's got his mates from Forest in the crowd. He'll be trying to live up to a little bit of a reputation. And as Dave said, he probably bowled better tonight and got no wickets than what he did the other night and get 5.
Here is Luke Fletcher then, right arm over the wicket, and Livingston tries to hoist him away over square leg and gets a little bit of bat on it, squirts out onto the offside, and there is just a single, 76 for 1. But yeah, straight away the intent is there to attack the seamers, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, there's pace on, can hit into it. As I've said, they've got 9 wickets left coming into the last 11 overs, so you know, that freedom to now play. They've done the hard work, they've got themselves in, they can try and play a few shots now and really go hard.
Yeah, not to do with a wicket here, and Luke Fletcher's the man who's trying to get it. Keaton Jennings just waits for this one to cut it away square on the offside. Single. As you can hear, 50 partnership between the two of them. And we're on to 77 for 1 for Lancashire. Blue sky up above at the moment.
Must be a bit dark out the back.
It must be, yeah. Sun's in, floodlights shining, and this is
6.
Pulled away,
Big
hammered
6.
away for 6 runs by Liam Livingstone. That's the shot we've kind of been waiting for, really. It's the shot that's been building up from a Lancashire point of view.
I think he's trying to hide the ball lengthwise. You know, Yorker will be fine, but if you miss that Yorker to Liam Livingstone, it's going to end up here with us in the Radcliffe Road. And he just dragged his length back a little bit too short. Sort of pull, come pick up. Again, flat batted shot, went over mid-wicket, over the hover cover. And there's a big space between the boundary and the William Clark stand. But it's a big boundary in itself, so it's a pretty sizable hit.
Here's Fletcher again then, into Livingstone, and it's a slower ball which has been called a wide down the leg side.
Oh, that didn't look that high. He's given one for the over there as well. It looked probably chest high at best. You know, it certainly didn't look like it was over shoulder, but I know we're quite high here. That might be a little bit deceiving with the angle looking down, but it looked harsh. It looked harsh for a wide to a certain degree. It did go down leg side, but it was a pretty well executed slow ball bouncer that just seemed to hold in the wicket and turn down the leg side.
Here's Fletcher again, And again, Livingston tries to hoik him away over mid-wicket. And doesn't get anything except pad on it. And it just squirts out for a single.
Leg by Coco the Clown. Ridiculous shoes. Hope I see him after. I'm going to have a word.
In case you weren't with us earlier, the umpire has some very shiny shoes on, or at least shoes with very shiny
huge
bits on them.
Look at that, size 17. Like every time his foot touches the floor, they light up.
85 for 1. Here's Fletcher, and that's a full toss, which is turned away off his toes. They're gonna, yes, they are going to go for 2, and the throw comes in from Patterson. And it's a decent bit of fielding. It's a decent throw, but they have gone through for 2. 87 for 2. With Jennings on 40 and Livingston on 30.
Fletch not quite on it tonight. Just seems a little bit off in terms of his control. The line's been out there, length, shin-eye full toss, probably got away with 2 there, but just seems a little bit off it. He's running in now though.
This one is pulled away by Jennings, but straight to the fielder, who is Stephen Mullaney. It's on the mid-wicket boundary, and there's just a single. And this time it's probably the batsman's turn to think he's missed out. 88 for 1. At the halfway stage of Lancashire's innings after Nottinghamshire won the toss and decided to have a bowl first. Jennings has 41, Livingston has 30. It's a dangerous partnership they're putting together here, these two. 61 it's worth so far. It's 88 for 1. Quick word from Paul Johnson, and then Dave Bracegirdle will continue commentary on BBC Radio Nottingham.
Yeah, built quite well, and as I thought, after the 3 quiet overs of spin, as soon as the seamers are introduced, you see spark up, far more pace to hit into. Probably need to look to take a little bit of pace off. I don't know whether Dan Christian is bowling this year as much as he has done, and you've also got Stephen Mullaney, who I think has been a bit of a genius in this competition over the last few years, and they're not used. I don't know whether they're just missing a trick by keeping the pace on this a little bit too much rather than going pace off.
I was just going to make the same point actually, Paul. Dan Christian the other night bowled his allocation 2 for 22, bowled very nicely indeed. Is Dane Patterson, the South African, bowling to Keaton Jennings, just deflects this one away out to Jake Ball, deep backward square, and they take a single. 89 for 1 as we begin the second half of this particular innings. They're nicely set here for a score. Well, I think Livingston, as I said earlier, is the key. If he stays until the end, it could be top side of 200, but Notts will be desperately hoping that they can get rid of him and make some rapid inroads in the middle order. Now this one's gone up in the air. There's an opportunity here. Dan Christian says it's mine. Livingston's underneath it, but Christian takes the catch and Livingston has to go, and Notts will breathe a sigh of relief there at having seen off the danger man for 30. It went a long way up, but there was no way Dan Christian was going to drop that one, and Dane Patterson can celebrate his first wicket of this year's blast campaign. Livingston out, caught at extra cover by Dan Christian from the bowling of Dane Patterson for 30.
Yeah, it seemed to I haven't seen it again, to roll his fingers over that, got it into a pretty good area, lengthish, so he could swing into it, top edge. And if there was a boundary straight up, I think it would have been 6. It came down with snow on it. He waved everybody away, did Dan Christian, and never looked like dropping it. Nice and solid, good catch. 30 there for Liam Livingston, just as we're looking into the scoreboard and seeing it rain again. So I just hope it doesn't get any heavier than this. Tim David is the new batsman.
Yep, with the platform already set by Salt at the start, and now Jennings and Livingston. Lancashire have bumped Tim David up a couple of places here. Born in Singapore, but very much a man of Australia. Played for Surrey last year. He's another global entity.
They're going.
He's all around the world, but he's not going to get the opportunity to begin his innings because at 89 for 2, the fall of that particular wicket, the umpires are taking them off, and Right now, I think Notts wouldn't mind that shower of rain, especially if it's one that starts to dig into the overs a little bit here and prevents Lancashire from going on and having their full allocation. They've got a good platform here, and any sort of score still possible.
Yeah, certainly a delay would probably obviously benefit the side back in second with an amended target. It's just a shame, isn't it, that I suppose it was the same last night. It's quite an intriguing game to see how it's going to pan out. Those last 2 or 3 overs, 140 seemed a little bit low, but in the context of the game, it could have been 165, 168, somewhere around about there, and then you've always got a game on. Tonight probably looks like being a lot more than that, but with that wicket there of Livingston, dragged it back Nottinghamshire's way, 89 for 2 with just over 10 overs to go. Anything's possible. It could be back down to 160, 170, or if they go well, up around 200. So just an intriguing game that was being set up, and again for the second time this evening the hover cover comes on and just interrupts play.
I think there'll be an emphasis on not starting a little better if they do get back out there with Lancashire batting, because if you remember the last break they came back, first ball, 8 ball 6, and then a 4 away they went.
It's quite heavy, this, though.
It is. Sami Patel's actually still walking off the field. He managed to commandeer a towel from Lyndon James, who came and joined us on the commentary last evening. I know many of you enjoyed hearing from Lyndon. I think he was walking around the boundary edge with some water and a spare helmet and a towel, and so Sami snatched the towel off him and put it over his head, and now he's eventually made his way back towards the pavilion. A lot of umbrellas going up, as you'd imagine. It is raining quite heavily, but again, it's one of those bizarre skies where you look in certain areas and you can see clear blue sunshine. There's pockets of white fluffy cotton wool clouds, and then there's other areas, including right over Trent Bridge at the moment, where it's filthy darkness, and unfortunately rain is leaking out of that filthy darkness. The poor old ground staff out there again. These are the sort of evenings they absolutely hate, because no sooner do they get the covers off and the pitch ready to play again than down comes the next shower. And I think since we've been here, it's about the 4th time already that they've unfurled these big tarpaulins that are attached to the hover cover. Real shame.
As good as they are, Dave, one of the main areas, and I think they're running off now to get extra covers on, the nets on the Bridgeford Road side are exposed, and looking at the well-used ends, they could easily turn very nasty very quickly. So I think they'll be getting another cover on there as quick and as best as they can. It's just a real shame, isn't it, that the crowd here have turned out tonight. Obviously a lot of them in the top of the Fox Road with umbrellas, but no, it's such a shame.
It is. This one of 4 scheduled matches this evening, and we're not the only ones affected by rain. In the North Group up at Headingley, Yorkshire Vikings should be playing Derbyshire Falcons this evening. They haven't got underway yet. Start delayed there due to rain. Similar story down at the Oval in the South Group, where Surrey playing Gloucestershire, and a delayed start at Chelmsford between Essex and Hampshire. I thought the general forecast across the country was supposed to be a little better this evening, but clearly not. Rain in Leeds and the capital and Chelmsford, and crucially at the moment here in Nottingham. A real old shame, with Notts dropping a point effectively last night, with the match rained off against Northampton. Or maybe if you're on the positive side, you might say that they actually gained one, because there's no real way of knowing how that one would have panned out. But certainly these matches in the early stages here, Notts really want to get out there. 3 home matches to begin with, get some points on the board, and go on and dominate the group, Paul, like they've done over the last few years. Yeah,
it's just one of those, isn't it? I like to think that looking around, that we're just getting little pockets of rain rather than anything sort of built up and big. It's almost stopped again now, just as you say, the poor ground staff have just done a sterling job in getting it covered. Right then, lads, tidy it up, off you go again. It's never nice, but it looks quite promising at the minute. Over into West Bridgeford town centre, it still looks like it's raining quite heavily over there towards Wilford, out that way, but certainly by the airport the sun's out, and round the back it looks a little bit more promising. It's certainly got a lot lighter, and fingers crossed that we'll only be off for a few minutes.
Well, this is a good sign. Clearly we're not going to get any cricket in the immediate future, but the umpires are already on their way back out to the middle. The ground, the square is
let's go, lads.
Yeah, the square is still covered, I should add, but they're coming out just to have a chat with Steve Burks, the head groundsman, and his crew, just to sort of get some idea how long now it's going to take, and they can start to begin their calculations. We haven't lost any time as yet. We've had 10.2 overs of the Lancashire innings, so still potentially 9.4 overs, but I think it's once they've been off for half an hour or so, then they start losing overs, and it would become a reduced game, a reduced overs game, and maybe a little bit of tinkering with the total that Notts would have to chase later on.
Here's a question that has been on my mind, and it was on my mind last night. How do they do that, Paul? How do they start working out when to knock overs off?
Half an hour.
It's just after half an hour.
Yeah,
if there's a half an hour break, that's it.
A set half an hour's leeway, sort of slush time, and then after that it starts coming off, which in this day and age with the covers and with the lights and everything just seems a little bit harsh, especially if you've got, sun's out now, especially if you've got, a 6:30 start, if it's 7 and beyond, and there's regulations on lights in built-up areas and bits and pieces and so on and so forth, but you want to see as many balls bowled as possible. I know it adds a little bit of extra to it, but once the game started, it's always nice to get as many overs in as possible for the crowd, and really in terms of a spectacle, because I still think that there's a slight anomaly. It's slightly wrong. The calculations always favour the side batting second when they reduce it down. Whether if it's over 3 overs per se, you lose a wicket, and that will make it that little bit more fair, if you like.
If Notts had a 10 over slog to chase, whatever it may be, they've got 10 wickets.
And I think every 3 overs you lose, or 2 overs you lose, you ought to be docked a wicket just to even that up slightly. And I think something certainly needs doing. It's been the same for a long time now, Dave, hasn't it? And the game has evolved, but the actual working out on the Duckworth Lewis, etc., hasn't. And I think that I'm not necessarily so sure in the 50 over game, but in this sort of format here, just to spark it up a little bit, could do something. I'm
not a great mathematician, as anybody who knows me knows, but they're obviously continually looking at it, because for donkey's years it's been Duckworth Lewis, and then Mr. Stern got his name added to it, didn't he, 2 or 3 years ago? It's now the DLS method, the Duckworth Lewis Stern. So whatever Mr. Stern put into it,
I thought it was Duckworth Lewis system.
No, there's a Mr. Stern now. So whatever his input was, I'm not sure, but they didn't take on what you were suggesting, and which is a very good point, that the side batting second should only have a limited amount of wickets at their disposal, as well as a limited amount of overs, because it does seem crackers really if you've got a 10 over slog and you are allowed to go out there and use all 11 batsmen. It does make your task a little easier. The good news from the middle is that the hard-working ground staff, no sooner have they got all the covers and the tarpaulins and the sheets and everything out there, and the umpires have come out and said, OK, it's stopped raining, can you start rolling them up again? So we always say it's a thankless task right now. I think we can see why, and I guess it's going to take probably 10 or 15 minutes. That's if we get no more rain.
7:38, they've said.
What time is it now? 7:28.
So they're only going to be about 10 minutes, but let's see if they can. They might. Who knows? We might get 1 or 2 minutes earlier than that.
It's important they got rid of Liam Livingstone just before they went off. Tim David is a dangerous player. He's in a similar sort of mould to Livingstone. He will tee off from the start. He's a big hitter from down under, and Notts will just be very, very wary about him. And then there's 1 or 2 really canny players that we've seen here over the years getting good runs, Stephen Croft and Dane Vilas. So there's still plenty of ammunition in that Red Rose tank, and Notts are going to have a real old challenge on to win this evening. Yeah,
as you mentioned, though, I mean, that is a great scalp to get, isn't it? Just before the rain came. because you feel with Livingston and Jennings the way they were going, if they were still there in another 5 overs time, they might well have taken the game beyond Notts. But both the combination of Livingston going and, as you and Paul were saying a little bit earlier, a break in play just might give Notts a little bit more of a chance of restricting Lancashire a little bit here.
Yeah, well, normally you think the batsman might take another 2 or 3 deliveries to get their eyes back in after a stoppage, but it didn't happen last time. A couple of poor deliveries, 6 and a 4. Getting official confirmation now what Colin has already given you. Game will resume at 7:38. No overs have been lost, so we're still on for the full 40 overs this evening, 20 overs aside. So if we do get that far, it'll be eating late into the evening before we get this one done here at Trent Bridge. But let's hope we have seen the last of the rain.
And the last stoppage was probably only 5 or 10 minutes, I would think, wouldn't it? This one's probably more like 20 by the time we get going again. So I'd imagine if there be any more stoppages, that is going to start eating into the overs, isn't it? But I've just checked the weather forecast and it looks all right forecast-wise.
They have started one of those other matches now in the South Group at Chelmsford. Hampshire are batting the visitors, and they're just underway in that one. As I said to Paul, 3 home games to begin with for Notts, and then understandably a bit of a break because there'll be the test match here at Trent Bridge, the second test up and coming against New Zealand here. So a few days to prepare the ground, get everything ready for the test match. And whilst they're doing that, Notts Outlaws have got 4 consecutive away games. We go to Derby on Friday evening for the local tussle, and then over the weekend trips to Edgbaston and to Headingley on Monday, and then I think a week on Friday go to Leicester. So games coming thick and fast. 4 consecutive aways after this one. Yeah,
got some miles to rack up. You will hear all of those games on BBC Radio Nottingham on our FM frequencies this season for the T20 cricket. The covers on either side of the big hover cover have now been rolled up, and so we're probably on schedule, you would think, for a 7:38 resumption, which is what we've been promised here, as Notts look to maybe take a few more Lancashire wickets. Phil Salt caught behind off the bowling of Jake Ball for 11 in the 4th over, scored 27 for 1 at that point. Liam Livingston then just before this break, in fact they haven't bowled another ball since Liam Livingston's wicket, skying one off Dane Patterson. It went miles up in the air. Dan Christian underneath it almost had time to I'm pretty sure I saw him rolling his sleeves up gleefully, getting ready to pouch it as it came down to him.
I think he had a bacon butty and a cup of tea.
I think he did, didn't it? It went miles up in the air, and but it was a good catch. It was a safe catch from Dan Christian, and that gave Dane Patterson his wicket. Livingston out for 30, and it's 89 for 2, but Keaton Jennings is still there with 42 from 27 balls, and Tim David is the new batsman who is yet to score. So the game is well poised, you'd say that for sure. Have you been out the back again, Paul, and had another look at the sky?
Yeah, that was a part of my trip.
Okay. I don't think we want to know about the rest of it. How's the sky look?
Yeah, all right. It's pouchy. You know, it all depends, I suppose, whether it's in the slot. You know,
right in line.
You know, we always used to say in the old days, if it came over town, there's a good chance it slid down the river.
Yeah.
You know, for whatever reason, we always felt that it got drawn down there. It sort of changed a little bit, but it seems to be coming from that slot this evening. That it's just pushing it in from over town, which is obviously the back corner here that we can't see. But what I'm not seeing, which you normally do from the ground staff, is heads keep swinging up and coming around thinking, should we be taking these off or not? We're not seeing that. We're seeing, you know, as what's normal here at Trent Bridge, very efficient groundsmanship led by Steve and his crew here. You know, they're well drilled. They get it done. it's on and off very quickly. We could see one or two of them be flicked up in the area on that cover though. Yes. If the wind gets hold of it anymore, that's dangerous. That.
And they're taking the huge cover off, and it's acting like a sail at the moment. The wind's getting right underneath it.
They've got it low now just to knock the wind out of it, but you know, just drying up. You know what I was going to mention is when they get out there, Dave alluded to it earlier, they can't start badly and go for 10 off the first 2 balls. They must start better. But what you're going to have probably more so after that shower than the first one is you're going to have a wet ball, and regardless of whether they're taking the rope round or not, all that does is just knock the top of the moisture off the top, and it goes underneath. But there was enough of it, in my opinion, when the ball goes over the boundary. You know, there's massive areas around tonight where the ball skips over the boundary rope and it goes through. That's not being touched. That'll pick it up, and to actually keep the ball dry and keep it good in the hands of the bowlers. And we've said tonight that it looks like they're targeting the seamers. I don't think the seamers have as much of a problem gripping a ball as what the spinners. So when the spinners come back on, they're going to have that to contend with, which might be an issue.
Yeah, more difficult for them. Well, they are still, that rope is still going round the outfield. The tractor driving round just the inside of the boundary.
I'll be staggered if we don't see a bit of Dan Christian when they do get out there. He's not bowled yet. Maybe they won't use Stephen Mullaney, we'll have to see. But Luke Fletcher's just had 2 overs. This is Dane Patterson's 2nd over. Jake Ball's had 2 overs. And the 2 spinners, Samit Patel 3 overs and Matt Carter 2 overs. So he's got plenty of options.
Has Mull bowled much?
Stephen Mullaney, he's hardly bowled in the county championship, and he had a couple of overs against Worcestershire, 2 overs, none for 16 in the first match. But you'll remember, it did seem 2019-2020 Dan Christian captain, he didn't bowl all that often, and he rarely in those 2 years bowled his full allocation. Last year when Dan Christian wasn't around, there was more of an onus, more of a need on Stephen, and he was the captain, and he was back to bowling his 4 over allocation last year.
I can remember a little bit at the time we actually felt that he didn't bowl enough, and when he did, he probably shouldn't have. But he's that sort of guy, isn't he? He'll take responsibility and say, you know, give me the ball, or give himself the ball and take that responsibility. Which is a sign of a true winner, which, you know, his record is absolutely wonderful in 2020 cricket. So, you know, I'm not sitting here and saying that he shouldn't bowl at times. I think there's a time and a place for him to bowl, and certainly, you know, tonight we've both alluded to it, that surprised to see a little bit of him, a little bit of Mull, whether they were coming into that, and each time they have a break, they go back up and reset and say, right, you're the main 5 bowlers, we've used you, we need this, which actually holds them back, which you don't get a chance to do, obviously, as the game is unfolding in front of you. You've got to make snappy decisions and think on your feet, and, you know, you don't want anybody, well, there's no one really better qualified than Dan Christian in this format of cricket to make those decisions. So
that's right.
We're not going to criticise him for the decisions he's making. What we're doing is saying there are options out there that he could use.
The players have crept back out into the middle there whilst Paul was talking, whilst the hover cover, the noisy hover cover, apologies for that blaring out into your ears, while that's been removed. Stark contrast between the start of the game, all the fireworks and fanfare and lots of noise and music, to the players just wandering back on there behind the umpires, just waiting to get back underway. So we haven't lost any overs, which means Notts have still got an awful lot of work to do here, and there might be a little bit of white ball chasing in the field. 9.4 overs remain. Lancashire Lightning 89 for 2. They've got a new man at the crease, Tim David, who's actually playing his 100th T20 match this evening. He's a Singapore international, but may have missed a trick there, because he's an Australian resident now, and I think they would have been desperate to get him in their side. Here's Patterson to bowl to him, and David is away. First ball, punching it out towards the Larwood and Vose for a couple of runs. And Lancashire into the 90s, 91 for 2. Had a very successful year last year with Surrey. Tim David, his first year in English domestic cricket, and Lancashire, I think, fought off 1 or 2 others for his signature this time round.
probably look at him and say he's a typical new age 2020 cricketer, isn't he? He's like what you'd call a clubby, a flat wicket bully.
He's like Livingston in many respects, and he's trying to play a big shot there, but he's just clothed it to mid-off to Ben Duckett and got a bit of a bobble, but he will feel he should have taken that cleanly, and they take a single. 92 for 2 brings Keaton Jennings back on strike. We believe he should have gone on 27. Certainly appeared as if he'd nicked one behind to Tom Moores off the bowling of Jake Ball. The keeper couldn't hang on, and Jennings still there. 42 from 27 deliveries. Averages 29 from his previous 90 T20 matches against Notts. There's Patterson to bowl to him. Keaton Jennings just chops it into the offside, and they take a single. 93 for 2 in the 11th over here on BBC Radio Nottingham, a match that started at 6:30, but we've already had 2 interruptions, and we now look to be
I'll tell you one thing that doesn't stop, Dave, while it's raining. They still serve beer. And I think the crowd are a little bit more noisy than probably half an hour or so ago when we stopped playing. Can you hear them? They've started. I think many of them have gone back to find very wet seats. Pulled away by David onto the leg side. There's 2 fielders out there, but he's bisected Sammy Patel and Stephen Mullaney, and that was just an example of how hard Tim David hits the ball. And straight away he's on just 7 from just 3 deliveries. 97 for 2 at the end of that Patterson over, which probably lasted about half an hour in truth. We've had 11 overs. 97 for 2 Lancashire. Yeah, strong boy, isn't he? Strong build. What must be about 6'3", 6'4", I'm guessing. Well, here is the like 6th bowler to be used. My dad would say. It's going to be Stephen Mullaney. Yep. This could, well, it could go one of many ways, but I was going to say it could go one of 2 ways if Jennings and Tim David apply some early pressure. It could get messy, but Mullaney, former Lancashire man himself, of course, knows what it's all about. He's been round the block a few times. He's going to be bowling to Keaton Jennings. The left-hander just drops it down on the leg side. I think it got a scratch on the bat, mainly pad, but he's going to get a run. 98 for 2. Jennings on to 44. Now the hard-hitting Tim David on strike, then the right-hander. Let's have a look at the leg side field. Deep backward square, deep mid-wicket, long on. Alex Hales at long off down here, engaging with the crowd. If it is possible to engage with the crowd with your hands in your pockets. Brings them out now as Mullaney comes in to David. He just plays it gently on the leg side, has a little look at Stephen Mullaney. 99 for 2, David on to 8. Yep, I think that I'm seeing him try and dry that ball. I'm surprised they haven't got a couple of rags out there trying to dry it on his shirt, but interesting. He doesn't need to miss his lengths, he needs to nail this very, very tightly indeed. There's Mullaney, past umpire Blackwell, and 3 deliveries sent down, 3 singles, and that one takes the Lightning score into 3 figures. 100 for 2 Lancashire, put into bat by not skipper Dan Christian, who won the toss around about 6 o'clock. Toss taking place down in front of the Batman board. Seem to be doing all the coin tossers there. This one's hit back to Mullaney. I think he's deflected it onto the stumps actually, and it didn't knock a bail off, which the umpire will be a little alarmed by, and he goes and removes a bail just to make sure that it's not stuck on. Clattered into the stumps quite firmly there, and the bail didn't come off. Dot ball, Mullaney bowls. This isn't a dot ball, this is high and mighty, away by the right-handed Davey, over towards that little gap between the edge of the William Clark stand and the Radcliffe Road stand, down to the right of our commentary position here at the Radcliffe Road end, and that's a big 6 from Tim David, just to let everybody know what he's all about. Well, he just, as I said, he can't miss his length, and I just think that was right in the slot. If it had been a bit fuller than that, caught it flatter or hit it along the floor, but he's just been able to lever that up and over the ropes. Not the biggest of boundaries in front of the William Clark stand. They have been brought in quite a long way. Next one's hit down the ground, fielded by Duckett. They'll take a single. We
We saw these boundaries for the first couple of matches, and it's almost as if Notts have sort of said, well, we back our batsmen to hit more sixes than your batsmen, and we're going to bring the rope in quite a long way on that side of the ground. 12 have gone, 107 for 2.
Yeah, 10 off the over. I think the last 3 have gone for 13, 9 and 10, so it'd be quite alarming to have a man in such as Keaton Jennings, who's 45 off 30, and the new man David, who's a man mountain. Looks like he hits it an absolute mile. He's come in and already scoring at 200, so Samit Patel comes back on.
And nobody, you made the point, nobody's gone after Samit yet. It was almost as if they're just looking to, rotate the strike, see if David approaches it differently. He's chopped this to backward point straight to Jake Ball, so Samit starts with a precious dot ball here.
This is his last one,
yeah.
So that I don't know whether they'll acknowledge the fact and say, look, let's just get him out of the way with 6 off the over, so it's just hit singles, or whether they think that the game has gone so far and we'll go after him regardless.
Second ball, he's gone after this, hit it up in the air, and it could be a bonus wicket, and it is indeed. Joe Clark rushes forward and takes a good diving catch, and the dangerous David goes for 15. Good catch by Joe Clark, and a familiar celebration from Samit Patel. He knows he's got a big fish there. David out for 15, 107 for 3. Only faced 9 balls, but he's not going to stick around to hurt Notts any longer. That's a good one for Notts to get.
Yeah, we said the ball before. Be interesting to see whether they'll stick a twist, knock him around for 6, or think that the game has now gone deep enough in over 13 that they can have a go at him. And fair play to Samit. Bowled it a little bit wider, so it wasn't in his arc, and he had to hit one way. Got a bit of a toe of the bat on it, and Joe Clark came running in, took a really good, well-judged catch, low down coming forward. Those are the ones that you can hit way too hard in it, and it bounced out, but he had soft hands out there, and made good ground to it. Don't know whether he's done a little bit of damage to himself. He seems to be sort of just jogging up and down. Whether he's got a tweak in there or something, I hope not, but good catch, excellent catch.
Was indeed. Bit of a Johannesburg love-in out there, because Dane Vilas is the new batsman, and like Keaton Jennings at the other end, he was born in Johannesburg. Captain of the visitors this evening, Dane Vilas chops this to backward point. Will be fielded by Jake Ball, but as he went to ground, he slid a little bit, just showing us there that it is just a little greasy, and the ball eluded him. They take a single. 108 for 3 brings Jennings back on strike. He's on 45.
I think he'll be disappointed with that, Samit. I think that Jake's probably egging it a little bit there, but left-hander comes back on strike. Right hand combo.
Patel bowls, well, a reverse hit. That'll be Dane Patterson, and he's not been able to stop it. Dived on the boundary rope, and it's almost as if he mistimed his dive a little bit, almost dived over it. Ball deflected off his boot and away. Actually deflected up and into the Fox Road seats and away for 4, 112 for 3.
I'm being harsh here to a certain degree, but that's poor. He's run past it, knowing that the ball on the sweep actually goes from his left to his right, and he needed to keep it on his left-hand side. Ran past it, and as soon as you hear it, don't you go, watch your spin, watch your spin. Oh. And that was exactly it, and it was hit really well. Keaton Jennings plays that reverse sweep probably as well, if not better than an orthodox sweep. He hit it hard, but he'll be upset there.
Jennings on 49. Notts won't mind if he takes a single, and he does. Just runs it into the vacant spaces on the leg side. 50 from 32 deliveries, 6 fours and 1 6. That one that he hit off Jake Ball earlier. So Samit Patel's got 1 delivery left to bowl to the Lancashire captain, Dane Vilas. 113 for 3. Here is Patel, running as usual between the umpire and the stumps, and again swept away down to Dane Patterson. A long barrier this time to make sure the ball doesn't go through him. And the end of Samit Patel, 4 overs 1 for 23 to Mr. T20 cricket. Another decent shift put in there with the ball by Patel. There might be 1 or 2 figures that compared to that look a little messy by the end of this innings. 4 overs 1 for 23. I think Samit will be very pleased with that.
Yeah, as he should be. I think up until that over they were very cautious with him. They knocked him around. He bowled it in good areas. I think probably his first ball is his worst ball. I think Salt missed out on that sweep, didn't he, with both men up. But after that, he's got right back on it and come up with that wicket at an important time.
Matt Carter's gone at a runner ball so far, 2 overs, none for 12. And to start his 3rd over now. This is the 14th over of the innings, bowling to Dane Vilas, who steps back to push it into the offside. Patel comes in and picks the ball up, but they take a single. Vilas on to 3, brings Keaton Jennings back on strike. $115 for 3 in the 14th over. Going to be Carter to bowl to Jennings, not just reinforcing, Dan Christian just reinforcing the cover region. Keaton Jennings again trying the switch hit, and this time not as successful as it was against Patel in the previous over. He missed it. Tom Morse took it down the leg side, but because he turned himself into a right-hander, it's nothing on it. This one he does hit with a little bit of conviction, out on the bounce to Joe Clark, and one more taken.
And there you go, Joe Clark never charged that. He knew that as long as he kept it on his left-hand side with a spin, everything was fine. And if it had gone too far, it would have spun back past him the other way. So nous, lack of nous the over before.
Next ball, 116 for 3, pulled firmly.
4.
And into the gap. Yeah, Paul Johnson called it. The moment it left the bat, he got it between Jake Ball at deep mid-wicket and Ben Duckett running to his right at the long on. It was a good connection. You're right, he just found the gap, didn't he?
Yeah, you know, you could see straight away. My eye went to Jake Ball, who didn't move. You see the long on running round, you know it's nowhere near him, and he's got a good enough contact, not great contact, but good enough contact for it to fizz out there.
Ball's coming on a lot better than it did last evening. Next one's cut out into the offside. It'll just be a single this time. For Dane Vilas, moves on to 8, 121 for 3. I mentioned a number of times last night just how it appeared just to be a little sticky, a little tacky, but certainly been juiced up a little bit this evening. Here's Carter, bowls, and this one's a low full toss, and Jennings has missed out. He's hit it straight to Jake Ball, so Matt Carter through the over with not too much damage, just the one boundary. The 2 Lancashire players getting together, and they'll be just trying to get themselves ready for the big push. Stephen Croft still to come, and then down to a couple of handy all-rounders, Luke Wood and Danny Lamb, and then the bowlers Hartley, Gleeson and Parkinson at the bottom of the order.
Here's one for you, Dave. Keaton Jennings. I think that when he played for England and when he was in and around, he was doing okay. He was best of a bad bunch, if you like. What I see now is a far more rounded cricketer. I see someone who would probably be a far better cricketer at that level, and he sort of, certainly for the one days, comes into contention a little bit more for me, and probably in the 5-day stuff as well. I know probably you'd say there's better cricketers around, you see more than me, but he's one that's really improved in my eyes.
There's Dane Patterson, 121 for 3 after 14 overs, bowls to Vilas. He punches it down the ground. I'm just looking at his figures, 17 test matches, 2 centuries, but an average of 25. But as you say,
I think
when did he last play? 2-3 years ago?
I think James Vince comes into that category as well. You know, when he played, he was probably a little bit naive, a little bit sort of...
I must admit, I was very impressed with Sam Robson a couple of weeks ago. Got a good century against Notts down at Lords. A lot of people have been talking him up.
Haven't they?
122 for 3. Alex Lees is obviously the one in possession, and he's another one that's been around the block a few times. And going around the block here is Dane Patterson, as Keaton Jennings just helps this away. And again, in that exact same gap down there between Jake Ball and it's Luke Fletcher, this time with the bowling from the far end. 4 more, 126 for 3. 5 overs to go after this one. 10 and over takes them to 180. Also going to have to take 2 or 3 quick wickets, I think, to prevent them getting that and beyond. Right now, you'd say Notts will probably settle for something under 180. It's going to be a tough evening.
So, very much so. They've still got firepower to come.
There's Dane Patterson from the pavilion end. Ball straight up in the air. Now here's an opportunity, and it's Luke Fletcher. Those big bucket hands getting ready, and he's caught it. Well done, Luke Fletcher. That wasn't easy. Did actually make it look difficult. He fell to the ground in taking it, but an important wicket. Keaton Jennings goes for 55. Not been at his best with the ball, Luke Fletcher, this evening, but that's a really good catch to get rid of Keaton Jennings, who faced 37 balls. It's 7 fours and 1 6, and Dane Patterson has a second wicket. 126 for 4.
Shouldn't be underestimated, that catch. You know, it's gone up, it's swirled around, Fletcher's sort of nowhere near it, and then in the end made what you said, made it look very difficult. But when it's up there, white ball, fairly bright blue sky, it's tough. You know, it's gone in and out probably of a floodlight as well. I'm bullying him up here, aren't I?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, made an easy catch look tough. No, he did well, and he's pleased. What he's doing is he's actually showing off to the forest box, I think. He can't stop himself looking over. And Fletch, I'd be very surprised if Bruce Samba's in there. He doesn't come across as a cricket man to me, Bruce Samba.
And then he's got a ticking off because he's wandered back out of the ring, and he's just been called up to get back in it. New man is Stephen Croft. He knows a thing or two about catching. This one's just short of a length, paddled away down to long leg. Stephen Croft has more catches than anybody in the history of T20 cricket. In fact, a good 30 more than his nearest rival. 123 catches. Been around since the early days, not quite as long as Samit Patel, who played in the first season. I think there's only Samit Patel, Ravi Bapar, and perhaps one or two others, Darren Stevens, who played in the first year. There's not many of them left now. Vilas has 9, 127 for 4. Patterson bowls, and the Lancashire captain drops it on the leg side. The field's set deep. I fancied getting 2 there, but Duckett was in quickly and keeps them to 1.
That's only about the second time I think Duckett's touched the ball.
Yeah.
He saved a good single out at fine leg early on. I can only remember him. That was the second time he's touched the ball. It's amazing. When you don't want it to come, it comes all the time.
Yeah.
When you want it, you don't see him.
There's Patterson. Bowls driven into the offside. That might test Joe Clark out there. It will. 4 runs. Clark just couldn't get anywhere near it. That was a lovely looking shot from Stephen Croft. He's on to 5 already. 132 for 4 after 15 overs. So both sides, I think, will have taken something from the last over or two here. Not just chipping away with a couple of important wickets since the last restart, but the Lightning well poised with Vilas and Croft nicely set. More from Paul Johnson, and to take you through to the end of the innings, Colin Fray.
Yeah, a lovely shot that. When he first struck it, I thought he mistimed it. I thought Joe Clark was just going to scoop it up, save 2, but you know, far be it. He timed it beautifully, and it didn't really roll. It bounced over the outfielder. Carter comes on again from the Radcliffe Road end and backs away, slashes it through the offside to Patel, who swoops around, keeps it to a single. Well fielded out there.
He's got his little fan club out there, and he's Samit Patel. Those supporters towards the front of the Fox Road stand, enjoying a little bit of fun with whoever's standing in front of them. It was Dane Patterson a little bit earlier. Now Samit Patel. This next one is nudged away towards mid-wicket just for a single. Good game, isn't it now? 133 for 4 with 5 overs to go. This is
it's in the balance.
This can go
stuff,
either way, can't it?
Yeah. These 5 could sort of get them up towards 200, or it could be 160, 170.
Carter gives this one a lot of flight. Oh, it's inside edged, and it goes between wicketkeeper and stumps and goes all the way down in front of the pavilion. Not quite for 4.
I've done well stopping it just for 2.
I think it was Dane Patterson, was it, right at the far end?
Bottom edge sweep. Tried to slog sweep it over deep mid wicket. Got an under edge through Moore's legs. You certainly can't blame him for that. It's a thick bottom edge that went through. Quite lucky. Ran away for 2.
Dane Vilas on to 13 and comes striding forward to this one. In the end, has to nudge it off his pads up again towards mid-wicket area. Ben Duckett runs into field.
I think Vilas will be looking for 2s. I can't see Croft pegging it backwards and forwards. I don't think at his tender age now it interests him too much. I think he'll be looking for strong shots and try and find the boundary.
Only the fourth ball he's faced, he's already on 6. In comes Carter, and he has given this a bit of a crunch, but he's played it into the ground and it goes up towards a long off. Alex Hales runs in from the boundary rope to field. Single. 138 for 4. Last ball of the 16th over. Bowled by Matt Carter. Round the wicket to Villas, who's almost down on one knee, almost stretching forward for this one to play it up towards Ben Duckett for another single. End of the over, 139 for 4. Again, it's another one of those where you think, well, actually, 7 runs off it, but I think Notts will be very happy with that at this stage, won't they?
Yeah,
4 overs to go.
3 of the last 4 overs have gone for 7 with a 11 from Patterson, but the one from Patterson, yeah, it went for 11, but he got a wicket. But now see change of bowling from the pavilion end. Jake Ball coming back on. I think this is key. These last 4 overs, certainly Carter's got, how many's Carter got? One more? I think that's 3 from 1, 2, 3,
Carter,
4.
no, he's bowled out.
There's not a lot, you know. It's going to be pace, 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 I think, which could go.
Yeah, the way the match has gone so far, that's been the pattern. 1 for 19, Jake Ball off 2 overs.
Patterson's got 1 left, Ball 2 left, Fletcher 2 left. Mulaney's bowled that single one in there to just take 1 off the end, but can't see much unless they bowl Mulaney again.
Here's Jake Ball. Round the... Oh, that's gone miles. That's a huge hit from Dane Villas. That's onto the roof of the Fox Road stand and down into the car park. That's massive from Dane Villas.
It's really, trying to find the right word on air, brave for him to bowl round the wicket and bowl into the pitch, because that is a short side. That, you know, that is a huge hit, don't get me wrong, go out over the top of the stand into the car park at the back, but it's brave because you just give angle and you give room, and especially if you miss your length, it's right in the wheelhouse and you will disappear. You know, that shot there is a big 6, but I expected it to go for 6 because
of the ball.
You struggle to bowl around the wicket and hit that length without the batter having a really good free clean hit of the hands, and it will disappear.
Interesting to see whether he changes tack here. Jake Ball tries the same sort of angles again. And he's going to try it again.
Well, I think he wants to go wide Yorker, set the field set the way it is.
And he comes to Dane Villas. He has yorked him and it's dug out for a single. 22 Villas goes on to. Now we're playing with a different ball now. I think they bothered to even go and try and find that one.
I think that's in some young kid's pocket. Fair play to him.
It might be through somebody's car windscreen, mightn't it? I'm kind of pleased that my car's not in that car park.
Well, it'd be a good hit to get my car.
His ball in again. Again, he's gone round the wicket. He's gone across the batsman and wide.
Harsh, that.
Croft had a bit of a swish at it, but was he sort of swaying backwards when he swished at it?
Well, I just think it cut the line. You know, he's gone wide, he's gone across him, and
he's asking the question, isn't he?
Yeah, you know, I just think that, you know, that's a little bit harsh. You know, the batters get everything, and you know, when it's touch and go like that, I just think that the bowlers should have a little bit of leeway in there.
David Milnes, the umpire, at the far end. Ball prepares to come in and run past him once again. Yorker length, good delivery. It's gone behind the stumps off a bottom edge, and they scamper through for a single before Tom Moores can do anything about it.
If the stumps were broom handles, that would have been bowled, because he's got a Yorker in. It's gone, popped up and gone directly over the stumps and almost plugged in behind them. And you know, you'd normally say that the keeper would probably run them out there, but you know, they're through now so quickly that sort of athletes, very quick between, and anticipation
and,
as
yeah,
well.
almost halfway down before it's got there.
There's no one saving one.
Here's ball. In again. Again he goes round the wicket and across the batsman. Flat batted by Villas and up towards mid-off. It's Dan Christian, I think, up there, who's done the fielding.
Got the new boots on. I can tell he's only just arrived.
Shiny white
everybody
boots.
else who's been playing a bit, they're sort of dulled down, aren't they? But they're like beacons on his feet there.
Here's ball in again to Croft this time. And this is
out.
Pitch. Oh, it's gone for six. It's just gone straight over Ben Duckett's head, over mid-wicket. As Paul Johnson said, for so long that looked like it was going to be out, because it just looked like it was sailing straight into the arms of Duckett, and it had just enough on it.
Flat, wasn't it? You know, it couldn't have gone 12 foot high all the way. I know Ben Duckett's probably, before you say anything, he's probably my size. I'd like to say he's an inch or two smaller than me, but that's irrelevant. It probably went 6 inches over his head, and it was struck clean as a whistle.
In comes ball again, and moving across his crease this time is Croft, because he was expecting it to go across him. He drives it back up the pitch. Ball got something on it to take some sting off it, and they go through for a single. That's the end of the over. It was an eventful one. It's ended up being a good one for Lancashire with those 2 sixes in the end. 156 for 4 with 3 overs to go.
Yeah, we sort of said, didn't we, coming into these back 4 with pace on, that something's going to give. And again, when we had the rainbow, Jake came back on at 6-4, starts his over 6, and you just feel that the writing's on the wall. It's, you know, a day of pace off, cutters, trying to vary your pace. You can't really go and bowl 4-day stuff. You know, on certain wickets you can go in and bowl hard length, try and hit sort of waistband, belly button high, try and cramp them for room. But I don't think it's that sort of wicket. I think it's a pace off wicket. We've seen it with the spinners. It's been tougher to get away, and they're sort of loading coming into this back end. They've got, you know, 2 very dangerous batters sat at the crease.
Croft on 15. It's Luke Fletcher who bowls, and this is turned away off his toes. And a good piece of fielding out on the boundary. They've run through quickly for a couple. That was Joe Clark diving away to his right. Deep backward square.
Looks injured to me, Joe Clark. Just doesn't seem to be moving. You know, he moved well, but he looks to be limping or holding. I don't know if he's got a lower back or top of his leg. I don't know. He just doesn't look quite his athletic self. It's a decent piece of fielding, to be fair, but just seems to be holding himself a little bit tenderly out there.
Fletcher. There you go. It's a full toss, and it's swiped away, almost flat batted again by Croft. Didn't really get completely hold of it, and Alex Hales fields.
I thought that would be rocketing through extra cover. He's bowled it full toss, shin high, probably 6 stump wide, and he's fetched it round to mid-on, where there's a massive gap. Probably each side of extra cover and backward point, there's a huge gap there, just with Samet perched in the middle of it. I would have thought they'd be targeting offside. Short side, huge gap in there.
Fletcher to Dane Villas, who's down the pitch, and again flat bats into the ground, and up it comes towards long on, and fielded by Alex Hales again for just a single again. 160 for 4.
Again, surprising. You know, it's got width, and he's I don't know whether he's seeing it so early that he's on it early and dragging it leg side, but everybody back leg side, big boundary, pretty much everybody up offside, short boundary.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand, but they hit the ball so far now, the size of the boundaries are irrelevant half the time.
This is pulled away again towards Clark. Oh, that's a brilliant stop. Fantastic stop from Joe Clark, which gets applause from the bowler and just about every single one of the fielders as well. Diving away to his left, first bounce, and he still had to take it. Maybe what?
In his left
about
hand.
Shoulder high.
Well, he dived. It was almost half volley. He couldn't get to it for a catch, nowhere near. Yeah, he's got a problem with his left leg.
Yeah, he has, hasn't he? Yeah.
as he came round, dived full length and got it pretty much in his left hand, only got one hand to it, and managed to, well, I don't think it was deliberate, but he released it back inside, got up, and what was pretty much a certain fall on impact has kept it down to 1.
And he's, as you said, flexing his left leg. Just,
so he had a word in about running down the wicket again. Was that? Not sure.
I was looking at Clark, to be honest.
The umpires are having a bit of a conflab as well.
I think he was checking how many balls are left in the over. This is hooked around again towards Clark. He's underneath it, and he's not going to miss that one.
It's unlucky from the batsman, but great fielding again from Clark out there. We've been sort of talking about he doesn't look fit, but he's still moving all right, and then he's holding.
Yeah, it's after he's done his fielding bit that he seems to be struggling a little bit, but that's Dane Villas gone for 24. And more good fielding from Clark. That's 2 balls in a row. And Luke Fletcher gets his first wicket of the night. And it's 161 for 5. The game remains very well poised and in a balance. I think we're in for a good game here, as long as the rain stays away. And thankfully, it looks as if the sky's a lot clearer now. Danny Lamb is the new batsman, but this is setting up to be...
Not a great name, is it, round here?
Danny Lamb. I don't think anybody cares at the moment, Jono, to be honest.
Oh, we still do. Come on.
2 divisions and all that. 161 for 5 with 13 balls to go.
I'll lead you in, you can do that.
Here's Luke Fletcher then, with the new batsman, Danny Lamb, to face Fletcher's last ball of the over. First wicket of the night for Fletcher as Dane Villas goes. And this is just nudged away politely by Lamb, thinking about 2, but Alex Hales scampered in from the boundary to the inner circle to do the fielding. And Fletcher gets a handshake from his captain, Dan Christian. 162 for 5, good over.
This could have been a lot worse at this stage, you know.
Yeah. After the power play, 56 for 1. Then with Keaton Jennings and Liam Livingston going well. 88 for 1 at the halfway stage. Who's got the ball in his hand here? Jake Ball to bowl his 4th over.
Brave.
1 for 36. So expensive so far from his 3 overs. Just think it's shaping up well for a run chase here. 162 for 5. What can the bowlers do in their last couple of overs? Again, round the wicket, Jake Ball spears it in.
2.
And Lamb sends it out just forward of square. They have run through for 2. It's a long distance for Ben Duckett to come in off the boundary to field the ball. Just hit between Duckett and Patel. We're on the leg side boundary. Patel is
fine leg, very fine down here. Backward square leg, must be 10 yards behind. Mid wicket orthodox, long on orthodox.
Here's ball again, and this is wide again, given by David Milnes. I mean, it's very wide by the time it gets to Tom Moores, but when it goes past the batsman,
I don't know. You know, probably on the live feed it shows, yeah, it's a wide, but from here I don't know whether it's our angle. It just looks like it's cutting the line, but unlucky again. It must be very tight.
165 for 5. Jake Ball steaming in again, and this is hit up in the air. Fielder underneath it looking interested and takes the catch. Not got the distance this time. Lamb hasn't hung around very long. He's gone for 3. It's another wicket for is that Alex Hales at the far end? I think it is, in front of the Hound Road stand. 165 for 6. And Alex Hales takes a very comfortable catch. Didn't have to move very far. Wicket for Jake Ball. And 165 for 6.
Yeah, didn't get hold of it. You know, seemed off, you know, in terms of what he's trying to do. I felt the ball before, he was looking to go leg side again to highlight the short side. It was that wide with 2 backward points up inside the ring, just bat on ball, it fizzed away for 4. But when you get to this stage, you sort of get a bit frazzled. Sort of an inexperienced player coming in, and in comes Luke Wood, Notts and Notts Academy. Just got a call up to the England side, something probably 6-8 years ago I'd never have thought possible, and he's worked so hard, and I'm really pleased for him. Wearing the flamingo pink tonight.
As ball runs in towards him and gives him 1 Yorker length to start off with, which is dug out by Wood, and there's just a single. As Dan Christian fields at mid-off. 166 for 6. Croft has 19 and the strike back. 3 balls to come in this over, and then 1 more over to come, which you'd imagine Luke Fletcher will bowl. 3 he's had so far. Here's Jake Ball once again into Croft. Croft turns him away towards Samit Patel, who runs in from the backward square. Just a single. Good spell here for Notts.
Needs to get out of this over well. He's come back strong here, Jake. I wasn't sure whether it was the right choice, but he's got experience in this form of cricket, and he's come back strong and delivered 4 decent balls so far. Just as I say, needs to get out of this over well.
167 for 6. Here's ball round the wicket to Luke Wood. Wood plays it out onto the offside. Fielding out the cover boundary is Ben Duckett. Again, a single. Not very happy with that at this stage. Taking good wickets at good times, I'd say, wouldn't you, Notts? 7 balls to go. 168 for 6. Ball into ball 2. Croft again. Oh, that's wide. That one is wide. He knows it came out of his hand all wrong. And we'll add another ball. 169 for 6. Just 3 wides then in his last couple of overs from Jake Ball. Just helping Lancashire a little. As Dave Bracegirdle was saying, they've lost their last 9 here. This one is well pitched up, dug out again by Croft. Down the pitch he plays it. Hales does the fielding. And that's the end of the 19th over. It's 170 for 6. And yes, it is going to be Luke Fletcher who's going to bowl the last over for Lancashire as the sun comes out again and casts long shadows over Trent Bridge.
Dragged it back relatively well. I'd have thought that going into the last over there'd have been at least 10 or 15 further on than this, and from nowhere, you know, you can't really see a lull too much. Probably overs 13, 14, 16 all went for 7. The rest have been sort of well, Fletcher's last over from this end only went for 6, so they have done some dragging, and it's to be commended. They've come back strong. Could have easily have just fallen by the wayside a little bit and been looking at the best part of 200 here, but they've dragged it back very, very well.
Yeah, Lancashire have never had that massive over, have they? Touch wood, because there's one to come here.
Yeah, over 17,
yeah.
17 over, which gets in and around that huge over, doesn't it? 17, 20 in and around there. But beautiful night now.
Yeah, bright sunshine now.
Must be quite tough batting from that end.
Yeah, he's almost in a spotlight, Croft, of bright sunshine as Fletcher bowls to him from the shade, and Croft pulls him around towards mid-wicket. Mullaney runs around and does the fielding, and there's just one. There's a diagonal shadow from one of the turrets on the edge of the Radcliffe Road stand, on the end of the Radcliffe Road stand, and it's casting that diagonal shadow right across Trent Bridge, and just a couple of yards in front of the batsman is where that shadow ends. Wood Former Notts man just having a look around before getting ready to face his old teammate Luke Fletcher in 2 wood, and that goes through to the wicket keeper with no edge, but it wasn't far off. Very well
executed Yorker.
Luke Fletcher.
Wandering about his stumps, trying to take advantage of the short side. Fletch saw him, just pushed it a little bit wider, and he hit over the top of it through to Moores.
Does bowl well at the death of 2020, doesn't he?
Yeah. He keeps it really basic and really simple at the death. I think a lot of people get fogged with slower balls, bounces, blah blah blah. No, you hit this, I'm going to bowl 6 of those, and if you can hit them, then good luck to you.
Yeah. 4 to come. 171 for 6. Fletcher in again, and Wood just pulls this one around to Alex Hales at long on. First bounce into his hands, straight at him, single. Not very happy. 172 for 6. Croft on 22. He's faced 13 balls. So not been able to be hugely destructive. Fletcher halfway through the final over. Sends a man down to the fine leg boundary. And this is going to be caught straight to Dan Christian at mid-off, standing on the circle. And Croft has to go for 22. And more trouble for Lancashire. 172 for 7 now in the final over. And this is starting to look a very good fight back indeed from Notts as they take late wickets. And Luke Fletcher has his 2nd of the night.
Yeah, you know, when he hit that, you thought, oh, that's a good shot. It was a good shot. Went straight flat, straight into the midriff of Dan Christian. A yard or 2 either side of him, he'd have struggled. But yeah, it's a wicket, but probably more importantly at this stage, it's a dot ball.
Dot ball as well, yeah. Tom Hartley is the new batsman. And here comes Fletcher to bowl to him with 2 balls remaining in the innings. Very wide open stance, and this is swiped back up the pitch, and it just goes over the head of Dan Christian. Hales can't come across either and stop it from going for 4. It was not pretty, but it was effective.
Yeah, this is what I said earlier. He has a game plan at the death, and I just don't know why he's gone away with it to a new batter. You know, full and straight. You know, you miss, I hit. You know, if you miss that length slightly, you've still got to deal with it. Whereas he's bowled it into the pitch, and it just gives him a free hit. Could have gone anywhere, and it did. You know, straight over Dan Christian's head, at long off, bringing fine leg up now, dropping him back. But, you know, do what you do well, Fletch. Just go Yorker again and knock off stump out, or try and get it through to Tom Moores.
Last ball, 176 for 7. And this is Yorker, and it is dug out by the batsman. And in comes Dan Christian. They're going to get 2 off the final ball. And that's the end of the innings. It's 178 for 7. And that represents a very good fight back from Nottinghamshire. Wood ends with 3, former Notts man, and Hartley ends with 6. Having faced only a couple of balls right at the end of the innings. 178 for 7 is how Lancashire have ended up. They were 88 for 1 at the halfway stage. And that is a very good fight back from Nottinghamshire from that position. Paul Johnson, what do you make of it?
Yeah, you know, you could say that, you know, it's virtually doubled, isn't it? You know, all but 2 runs.
Yeah.
And to do that in the second half with
when they had 9 wickets
in hand,
yeah.
You know, fair play, hats off, come back strong and done a really good, competent job coming into the back end. Whether 178 is a winning score, what it is, it's certainly competitive, and I think that, you know, Notts need a strong start. They need to be probably after 10, you know, certainly comparable in and around that score, because I think that they'll mix it up a little bit more. I mean, seeing the wicket, they've got the advantage of seeing that a little bit, and they can use their bowlers accordingly. Whether they've got the personnel to do it, whether they've got the competency to do it, we'll wait and see. But, you know, after halfway you were probably looking at certainly 10 to 15 runs more than what they got. So, you know, now it's down to the batters. The bowlers have, you know, pulled the fingers out the second half and done a really good job.
Sets it up beautifully, doesn't it?
Yep.
That is a very, very chaseable score.
So we're halfway through this game for Notts Outlaws against Lancashire Lightning. Lancashire Lightning finished with 178 for 7. Lyndon James joins me again. Lyndon, first reaction to that score that Lancashire have posted?
Yeah, I think they played well, to be fair, but you know, we clawed it back, I think, at the end there. It could have easily been 190, kind of 195, 200 plus, so I think the boys called it back well, and hopefully we can get over the line.
If we talk about the power play at the beginning, 56 for 1 Lancashire were. Kind of felt that they were in a little bit of a rhythm. We always talk about power plays, wickets from our point of view with this bowling are crucial. At that point, did you feel that maybe they were on the front foot?
Yeah, maybe. I think that if you look at the top three, Salt, Jennings and Livingston, there's a lot of power there, a lot of experience in that top three, so it's going to be difficult to bowl at them. But as I say, we kind of clawed it back because, you know, they were going at 10s pretty early there, so to end up with 170 is not a bad effort.
On Livingston, obviously, most people watching this, if they watch sort of white ball cricket, will know how destructive Liam Livingston can be. How big of a wicket was that, especially at the time that we
massive,
got that?
Yeah, if he gets in and faces 40, 50 balls, he's not be far off getting 100. So, you know, the way he struck the ball in the last kind of 2 years has been ridiculous, better than most people. So, yeah, crucial wicket from Dane there, I think.
And just on kind of the 2 wickets towards the very end in quick succession, does that show you how it can change so much in T20? A wicket kind of takes it away from the batters, doesn't it?
Yeah, a wicket can kind of halt momentum a little bit, especially if you keep taking them in clusters, because, you know, it means fresh batters are coming in, haven't got quite used to the pitch yet. So obviously, yeah, the pace of the wicket as well, so it can kind of change momentum that way.
Now, we've just mentioned that it's quite chilly when you're not in the sun here. We've had some rain stoppages as well. How does that affect you as players in this format, because it's very quick, doesn't it? The people the ground staff try and get the hover off as soon as possible.
You just got to try and make sure you're ready to come back on, because it can literally be as click of a finger, you're straight back out there. You know, you need to stay warm, especially when it's cold like this, because you're going to be running around and bowling, you know, at decent pace, especially as a fast bowler. So you need to make sure you're ready up in the dressing room. There's no real sitting around. But obviously that's the beauty of T20 cricket. You know that it's fast paced, so you've got to always be ready to go, really. So
obviously we know the target, 179 win. From a Lancashire bowling point of view, obviously we know about Luke Wood. Who else have they got in their bowling unit that maybe we just need to keep an eye on?
So Gleeson's bowled well, I think, this season. Obviously he's had a few injuries the past couple of years, but he's I watched the Rose game the night, looking bowl with good pace, so that should be entertaining to watch against our batters. And then, you know, Matt Parkinson's a very, very talented leg spinner, so he's bowled another good white ball bowler in the last few years. So it looks like that wicket held a little bit for the spinners as well, so it'll be interesting to see how we play them.
Because it felt like very much that Lancashire kind of respected the spinners of Matt Carter, Samit Patel, etc., but maybe went after our seamers a little bit. Is that something we would take notice of?
Yeah, it just looked like pace on the ball looked a bit easier to hit. When our seamers bowled kind of off-cutters, slow balls, it looked a little bit more difficult because it was kind of holding the pitch. So obviously that's where the spin came into play. You know, Matt got a lot of bounce there with his height and hold with spin, so that looked quite difficult to get away, and we actually heard a couple of batters say that as they came out, so I think, you know, that feedback will be relayed to our batters.
Is that a good point, actually, in T20, the fact that you are next to each other in the dugouts here at Trent Bridge? Do you keep an ear out and maybe listen in, or you're not really that fussed?
I guess you do, to be fair. You try and get any edge, don't you? But I think obviously having, you know, the coach will be up there, Cunny's got the camera there, so he'll be relaying some messages down. But I think everyone knows playing on the wicket themselves will see what's going on. So, you know, T20 again is all about communication and making sure everyone's on the same page.
Just want to mention, while I stood down here, Joe Clark, literally, obviously there's a bit of dew on the grass, the ball skips off it very quickly. Some fantastic fielding down here, then a catch. How important is those stops from getting them to go from 4 to just restrict it
massive.
to 1?
Massive, because every run's crucial. You know, even in this game, net run rate, whatever it is, it all adds up towards the end of the season when it gets to trying to, you know, qualify for quarterfinals and final stage. So it's massive, and, you know, if he takes that catch, you know, a new batter comes in, might, you know, score less. He's not been on that wicket, as I said earlier. So, you know, making sure you're on in the field is crucial.
Now let's just concentrate on the target that we've got. Obviously Alex Hales, Joe Clark coming out at the beginning. That power play, we always talk about it again. Are we looking at that power play, or are we thinking we've got 20 overs here to get that 179?
Look, I think our natural way of playing is we're aggressive up front, we're aggressive all the way through, to be fair. and we're looking to play strong cricket shots. I think that's what our batters do really well. And when Ducky comes in at some point, obviously looks to play 360 all around the ground, and they're naturally our batting order kind of suit each other well. They're all kind of different kind of batters, which massively helps. But I think with our batting order, strong shots, naturally aggressive, I think we'll look to score quickly anyway.
It kind of feels that we've got, with our batting unit as well, we can adapt to the situation as well. Obviously you have a set batting order, but in T20 that can change, doesn't it? So we have, as you just mentioned there, different batters that can potentially come out at different stages depending on where we are in the game.
I think one thing that's massive in probably across most T20 sides is having a right and left hander, especially if you've got a shorter side boundary. Then it's always useful having a right and left hand because you can attack that side each, whichever end the bowler's bowling at. So that'll be pretty crucial. I imagine you'll spot that. I mean, that happened last night, I think, when the boys batted last night. So it's something we kind of look to do most games, I think.
Now, we mentioned him at the beginning of the game. Samit Patel needs 9 runs to get those 25,000 career runs. We know Samit, obviously he'd love to be the person that maybe gets us over the line, doesn't it really? But we don't necessarily mind who it is as long as we can get that 179.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure Samit will be looking to contribute as he always does with bat and ball, even in the field as well. But whoever it might be, someone I'm sure will hold a hand up and get us over the line.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Lyndon. You cannot go back to radio. Okay, you're on the TV now. That's where you're sticking.
I made the cut now.
You made the cut. Right, it's time for me to hand over to the commentary team.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the field of play your umpires, Ian Blackwell and David Mills.
Nottinghamshire and England's Stuart Broad getting ready for his return to the international fold, and also reflecting on events at Wembley. Seemed to be struggling a bit, and yet his actual fielding was superb. It seemed to be struggling after any of his moments where he was called into action, but a wonderful diving stop to prevent a certain 4, one-handed away to his left on the boundary at one stage, followed up by a catch next ball. Very good fielding performance from Clark, who ended up with a couple of catches in the innings. And so we are just about set to go. Tom Hartley, who ended the Lancashire innings, is going to start with the ball in his hand for the visitors. First ball to Joe Clark.
Leg spinner. Sorry, left arm spinner.
And they're starting then with spin from the pavilion end. Right, let's see what Notts can do about this.
Huge
179.
wide.
Yeah, that goes way wide down the leg side.
Keeper did well there. Could have easily been 5 wides, but got a pad on it, I think, and it flicked off his knee to backward point, so it's gone from leg side right across to backward point.
Next one is a little bit more on the money from Hartley, and just defended away by Joe Clark. Notts having won their opening game on Friday night. Had to go with a no result last night because of the weather. This next one played straight down by Clark into his crease. So a good couple of balls from Hartley after the first one was wide. This one, though, is swept away beautifully. Full toss, I think, from Clark. And away it runs in front of the older scoreboard.
Well, he's certainly not looking to try and turn a ball here, which is surprising because the pitch offered turn, and he's come first 3 or 4 balls wide of the crease and he's angled it in. And if Joe Clark would have played 4 sweeps, I'm sure he'd have got at least 2 or 3 of them away. He's come leg side of it, but on the last one sort of stood his ground, just swept him round. Easy pickings.
First boundary of the innings. This next one, it's a bit of a leading edge and squirts out.
First one he's
offside.
First one he stood up, got his hand over the top of it and tried to spin. The first 3 or 4 all darted in with the arm.
Coming round the wicket to Clark, and Clark hoists this one away, up in the air, might be in danger, is in danger. That's a really good catch. And the fielder slow to get up, probably hurt himself.
Croft, I think.
Is it Croft? He was running backwards from the circle.
Right.
And he's very slow to get back up, but he's taken a very good catch. Running backwards, in the end almost diving backwards as the ball looked as if it might end up over his head. But Clark has to go for 4. Only lasted 5 balls, and Notts a 5 for 1. Yeah, it was Croft who took the catch off the bowling of Hartley. Very, very good catch. Because when that first left Joe Clark's bat, I thought that's way over his head.
Well, he seemed to have a sniff on it, but I thought it was one of those where, you know, he's of an age, he's running backwards over his left shoulder. It could have easily gone to his right shoulder. He's backpedaled, he's got half a turn in, and it was one of those you just felt was going to drop over him, and he's made a great lunge at the end, hands up, and it stuck, landed heavily, but well judged, not what Notts wanted.
Stephen Croft is just down still on his haunches, just stretching himself out. And
I think he's landed on his hip as he went round. He's sort of hard.
And Ben Duckett is at the crease far earlier than he would have hoped or expected to be. Clark is gone in the first over, which still has 1 ball to come, and it's 5 for 1. And here's Duckett prodding this away out on the onside to get off the mark off his first ball. And he'll keep the strike for the first ball of the second over. It means Alex Hales has still not seen a ball yet. And it's 6 for 1 at the end of the first over. Good start for Lancashire.
Yeah, not what Notts wanted, and I just felt that there's probably a little bit of frustration. He missed out on a couple down the leg side, everything was darted in, and then he got one up and over the top that he got a bit of a leading edge to, as you said, Colin, and it just dropped out. And I just felt that he was looking probably a little bit ambitious to from the crease go over the top, and it looked like again it just stuck in a touch, didn't quite get all of it. You know, would have probably landed halfway between inner circle and boundary, but a backpedaling Croft over his shoulder dived and took a very, very strong, good catch. Winded himself on the way down, but as Dave was saying, that Duckett has been playing well this year, coming in at number 3, and we're looking for another strong innings this evening. Big gap at backward point.
Richard Gleeson to bowl to Ben Duckett, and Duckett has put it into that big gap at backward point. Flashing shot outside off stump, hammered away, 4 runs. Well spotted, Mr. Johnson.
Well, I said it because I just couldn't believe the size of the gap from point, because he was virtually point, he wasn't backward point, and third man was probably 20 yards finer than where he is now. So to me there was just a massive, glaring, huge gap for me that I'd have been aiming at as well.
Here's Gleeson again. Quick into Duckett. Plays it out 2 point this time, and there is
And
no run.
And Gleeson, to be fair, should know a fair bit about Duckett because they were both Northants players together. So, you know, any width, he knows he's going to flash it. Short guy like myself, he's left, I'm right, but even still, you play well off the back foot, and any width just disappears through that backward point area very quickly.
Gleeson again, 10 for 1. Notts in the second over, chasing 179, and is that caught behind? The batsman stands his ground, but he has to go. Duckett's gone. Gleeson was celebrating, and the wicket-keeper was celebrating as well. Phil Salt.
Doesn't like it, and
No,
Hales has
Duckett's
had a
not
word
happy.
with him as well. So...
very unhappy.
You can always tell a batter that's unhappy because he walks off with the blade in his hand, not the handle in his hand. For whatever reason, it's a bit of a tell. And you've got Hales, who has turned and had a chat with Blackwell as well. But he's on the way, unfortunately. Samit Patel in very, very early. I don't like Samit in this early, but he is.
It's already looking like a rescue job, isn't it, at the moment for Samit Patel?
He's quite good at that. You know, I always think that when he comes up in the middle of an innings at times, he eats up a few dot balls. But at this stage, he's got the chance to eat up a few dot balls because he's got A, Hales at the other end, who hasn't faced a ball yet, and B, he needs to get himself in just to make sure that in the power play you don't win many games being 3 down in the first 6. And we are 3 down in the first 2. So, sorry, 2 down in the first 2 overs. So you know he needs to get in. They're going ultra attacking. You don't see this very often. 2 slips.
2 slips. 2 slips in T20 cricket. Here's Gleeson into Samit Patel. And he bowls it wide down the leg side. And not to pick up another extra 11 for 2. So Alex Hales yet to face a ball, and we're 1.5 overs in, and a couple of wides as well, and he's seen 2 wickets fall at the other end. Notts 2 down before Alex Hales has faced a ball. Here's Gleeson into Patel, and that should be out, and it is. He's played it straight to the man at fine leg on the circle, who juggled, knocked it up in the air, and then took it again. And again he's slow to get up. Is it Croft again, maybe? That's why he's so slow to get back up onto his feet, having got himself injured before. But Notts are in big, big trouble now. It's 11 for 3.
Parkinson.
Samit Patel has gone. Parkinson it is, who's
juggled.
The latest to be very slow to get back up onto his feet. He sort of knocked the ball up in the air, and as it came back down again, he's taken the catch. Patel's gone 4-0. Notts are 11 for 3.
Awful delivery. And a shot that you would play 10 times out of 10. Yeah, it's unlucky. You know, could he have kept it down? Bobo, it's an anomaly down there. You know, how much you get on it, whether it goes in the air, whether it goes in the floor. It was flicked away. He would have hit that and thought 4. As it is, it's gone to him. It's burst through his hands, popped up, could go anywhere. Just popped straight in front of his nose again and got it on the way down. And unlucky. At the same time, you could describe it as a little bit sloppy, but it is what it is. Terrible ball, and it's got a wicket. 11 for 3. And Hales is at the other end and faced the ball.
Still hasn't faced.
No.
Notts now 3 down before Alex Hales has faced a ball.
Yeah.
I suspect there's one frustrated batsman out there just at the moment. Stephen Mullaney is the new man. And in comes Gleeson, and Mullaney knocks it back down the pitch.
Could be out here with a hit.
And he might be out with a direct hit. He is. Stephen Mullaney followed it a long way down the pitch and then realised that it was heading straight for Tim David. And David fired a direct hit. And David Milnes, the umpire, says Stephen Mullaney has to go as he tried to get back into his ground but couldn't make it. He goes for a first ball duck, and Nottinghamshire in the second over are 11 for 4.
Incredible, really. Yeah, everything going against. It was a strong drive down the ground. Gleeson got a fingertip on it, which took the pace off it. To a certain degree, you could say Hales was ball watching, made a shout back. By that time, Mullaney was committed almost halfway down, probably turned a little bit slowly, needed to be a direct hit, and unbelievably nailed it. Absolutely nailed, middle stump, 2/3 of the way up, bang, gone. David Milnes had to make a decision, looked out from here, looked just short, but not what Notts wanted. 11 for 4 after how many balls have we had, let alone overs? We've had 11 balls, 4 wickets, and as stupid as this seems, just needs someone to sit in and play, because we are only 11 balls in. Yeah, we lost 4 wickets, but it's not irretrievable. Someone will have to play exceptionally well under massive pressure, but it's not the end of the world at the minute.
Gleeson is in to bowl.
Pace.
That's a really good pace delivery. Bowls to Tom Moores. He got some good lift as it went past Moores and through to the wicketkeeper. It's a dot ball. It's the end of the second over, which has been a disaster for Notts. 3 wickets in that over alone. 11 for 4. And only now, at the start of the third over,
Dave's just said to me, look at the Duckworth Lewis.
Where Notts need to be.
Yeah.
52. And they're 11 for 4.
Yeah. It's the wickets, and it's just banged it beyond all belief. But
Alex Hales is going to face a ball now.
I'll have 2 legs, please, Crikey O'Reilly.
Wow. Hales to face Hartley, who's continuing from the pavilion end, and he's edged this wide of the wicket-keeper. And the bowler puts his hands to his head agonisingly.
It seems strange, doesn't it, that Gleeson had 2 slips, and the next over to a batsman who hadn't faced a ball at 11 for 4, they haven't got a slip in.
They haven't got a slip in.
You'd have thought, just for a few, we'll risk it and see if he nicks off.
Yeah.
Because it's gripped a little bit, hasn't it, all evening. Gordon Bennett, could you imagine 11 for 5?
Well, Tom Moores is in, and it's not very often you see Tom Moores in the third over. And Hartley beats Moores.
Moores,
yeah, it is wide, as they only are able to run 1, as the fielding is done by Matt Parkinson, running round behind his wicketkeeper. That really reared up over Tom Moores, who'd gone down onto one knee, and then was an awful lot higher than the wicketkeeper was expecting as well. Salt unable to take it.
The horse has bolted.
A slip is in. Keaton Jennings goes in. That slip for Alex Hales, who prods this out towards cover. And there is no run. Bowler almost runs back Hartley to the end of his mark and drops this one in short.
Word.
And Hales plays it just over the man at extra cover, who has a look ruefully over his shoulder as it runs away for 4. There was not a lot of distance between fielder and ball as that went over his head, but it is 4 for Alex Hales.
Yeah, it was hit really clean, wasn't it? And top right hand corner, you're not really going to pull those in, but as you say, another foot, and who knows.
Partly in to Hales, who's defending this one.
It's an interesting mindset now, what's going through Alex Hales' mind. Do I be ultra aggressive in this 6 because if I bog up the power play, but if I get out, what on earth am I going to do? You don't know whether to stick or twist.
Yeah.
I just think he needs to play his natural game.
He's beaten by this ball.
Game's already almost done.
Yeah. And playing your natural game like that, with a beautiful late cut behind point for 4, is probably the way back in it for Notts. 22 for 4, so a much better over. They've ended up with 11 off that third over, and more importantly, they've got through it without any further damage. 22 for 4 after 3.
Yeah.
If Hales plays like that, he can play his team back into it.
We know what he's like. We know what he's capable of. What he's capable of is to get hold of this game and shake it by the neck. However, he needs people at the other end, certainly Moores, to keep his head on and play an accomplished second role. but at the same time, he's still 1 or 2 batters. It's quite a long tail, to be fair. The Notts lineup, so he needs sort of Moores and Christian to stay in with him, and he needs to play the innings of a lifetime. But we've seen him do that previously.
Gleeson to bowl to Moores, who's defending him back down the pitch. Now Richard Gleeson's tail is up. 2 for 5 from his first over, plus the run out of Mullaney.
I saw him bowl 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was at a club ground, but he had good pace and carry, and he was nowhere near this. He bowled.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I would have thought it'd be 10 miles an hour slower than this. It's amazing what a wicket or two does, and the buzz of a crowd, and you being on a test ground, and all of a sudden, bang, you're on it.
Here he is again, running away from us at the Radcliffe Road end, and this is just nudged down into the onside by Moores for a single, which is going to give Alex Hales his first look at Gleeson.
I'd be surprised there if he doesn't really go hard upstairs at him and see if he can get him on the hook and pull. Either splice it to the short fine leg, whack it out to the big boundary in front of the Smith Cooper stand, or try and get him up there. I think we'll probably see what I call a little bit of nose and toes here. It'll either be Yorkers really full, or trying to grill him. Backward point is way behind, so he ain't going to be pitching too much up, I don't think.
Here is Gleeson into Alex Hales for the first time, beats him, and he goes through to the wicket keeper.
I think he had my thought process going on in his head.
Yeah,
I think the field set was for a short ball, and he's pitched it pitched it up, but it's a good length. Alex was nowhere, feet were nowhere, and he just had a little prod at it. Easy to nick off there. You don't see many fields like this.
No,
slipping a fly slip, and there's only one in front of square on the leg side.
Gleeson.
Oh, it's a good ball.
He's bowled it down the leg side, but Hales is backing away. So Hales is well outside leg stump, and it goes between Hales and leg stump through to the wicket keeper.
And that really good, strong Yorker length.
It's good bowling so far. Yes, you say, this gap out on the mid-wicket boundary is enormous.
But sure as eggs are eggs, there'll be a short ball coming, and it'll be, I would have thought, throat eye up there, so it's hard to control. It's coming.
Here is Gleeson. That's a good length delivery. Bang on target. Defended away by Hales, who...
It's good pace, isn't it?
Yeah, he's bowling well so far. Hales looks a bit frustrated. Not surprised at 23 for 4.
And within a matter of 4 overs, the run rate shot up to nearly 10s. And that all adds to the pressure. Not only you've lost wickets, you know, you're trying to consolidate, but you can't consolidate positively enough for the run rate not to skyrocket.
Here's Gleeson again in 2 Hales, and he's played it off his hip nicely. You
sort of knew it was coming, because it was the last chance he was going to get with that man back. Didn't get it high enough, as you say, just probably rib cage high, and he sort of swivel pulled it away for a 1 bounce 4, but you sort of knew it was coming, and he could have really double bluffed, couldn't he? He could have gone full again, because I'm sure he was waiting for it, because he knew it was the last ball. And when you've only got 24,
yeah,
you want to try it, especially when they are in such a mess.
Whistled away for 4, very close actually to the fielder who was at backward point. Mentioned that there was a huge gap, and not many fielders on that onside, but he had a backward square leg, I should say, but he had no chance of getting there because it was hit so well by Hales.
I think they're struggling with the crowd at the minute.
Yeah.
They're putting the AO, no chance.
27 for 4.
I think the DJ's getting nothing from this crowd at this precise moment. It was a good effort, but it was never going to work.
Luke Wood, former Notts man, in from the pavilion end to bowl to Tom Moores. Moores
this could be
defends
out
away, and if it's not a direct hit. Trying to direct hit at the bowler's end was Luke Wood. The bowler himself fielded it as they tried to scamper through for a single, and he was well over the top of the stumps. But again, might have been in trouble with a direct hit, like they were earlier. Moores gets home. Hales gets strike. Notts get a single, 28 for 4. chasing 179 to win, but it feels a long way away from here just at the moment. And what I'd bigged up between the innings as being what looks like a really entertaining run chase at the moment feels as if it's a big ask for Notts. But here's Hales to face Luke Wood, who tries to pull him away and gets nothing on it.
That would have landed in East Bridgeford if he'd have hit that, let alone West Bridgeford. He swung hard at that.
Through to Phil Salt, the wicket-keeper, and it's another dot ball. And it's 28 for 4. As the floodlights shine down brightly on Trent Bridge. All the fielders with 6 shadows. The sky overhead is clear now. Some clouds around, but largely blue sky as Wood comes in again to bowl to Hales. He plays this down to the man on the backward point boundary. And Hartley fields. And again, it's just a single. 9 balls left in the power play. 29 for 4. Wood, blonde-haired figure, begins his run from outside the fielding circle. Comes hurtling in now to bowl to Moores, who's trying to just lever him up and over the top of the wicket-keeper and gets no purchase on it at all. Through to Salt it goes again for a dot ball. Just trying to spoon it away.
You know, you could criticise Moores there, but you've got 8 balls left of the power play. You've got to try and get something out of it, even though it's 4 down. You can't, you know, just pat this out and then expect to go again. You've got to try and make something happen in these sort of 6 or 8 balls that's left in the power play.
Wood in again, bangs this one in. Oh, what a catch! What a catch that is from Phil Salt behind the stumps.
You know what?
It was banged in by Wood, and then Moores has tried to just keep it going, really. And one-handed, Phil Salt, high above his shoulder, has taken a magnificent catch.
He must have got a feinty on it because it's hit him on the head. It's definitely straight away. I thought that it just come straight off his helmet, but whether he just got a fine glove or a little top edge on it or something, I suppose, you know, we'll never know up here. You know, I don't know whether they've got it on the feed or whatever. They'll probably let us know. But whether he just got a faint glove and then helmet and then on, but it certainly hit him on the helmet. I saw that, and he walked off and had a look, probably up on around his peak. He's having another look now as he gets close to members. We've always done that. But you know, it's whether he got a feinty on it as well. But another blow.
A really good catch from Salt. And it's 29 for 5. And Notts need their captain to bail them out of all sorts of trouble here at Trent Bridge. Dan Christian. I mentioned earlier, you don't see Tom Moores in very often in the 3rd over. You don't see Dan Christian very often in the 5th. There's 1 ball of it to come. Luke Wood has conceded only 2 runs off the first 5 balls of his first over, and he's taken the wicket. And here is Wood in to bowl to Christian, who defends. He's forced to defend. It's another good ball by Wood, and it's 29 for 5 at the end of 5 overs. There's 1 over of power play to come for Notts. Alex Hales has 14. Dan Christian, having just faced that 1 ball yet to score. 29 for 5. Clark for 4, Dockett for 5, Patel without scoring, Mullaney without scoring, and Moores for 2. The men to go so far. Disastrous for Notts so far. So we need a bit of brace girdle magic to sprinkle over this cricket match as far as Notts are concerned, and you'll hear from Dave after a word from Paul Johnson.
It's not very often you see this either, which is for an opening bowler to be bowling his 3rd over out, you know, on the reel in the power play. It's very rare these days that you see them bowl probably 2, let alone 3. But when you've got a captain who's, you know, opening bowler who's got his tail up and side of 29 for 5, you keep him going. probably think he might bowl him all the way through, bowl 4 through.
Gleeson 2 for 10, bowling to Alex Hales, who chops this down, mistimes it, but takes the single. Hales moves on to 15. He got a century in this game last year, Alex Hales, 101 from 66 balls. In all possibility, something similar this evening might not even be enough, bizarre as that sounds. If it were to rain now, Lancashire would be convincing winners. We've had more than the 5 overs that would constitute a game, and the Duckworth-Lewis par score for Notts right now is 77. They are 30 for 5.
To keep that run going, Dave, that you mentioned earlier, something miraculous is going to have to happen.
There's Gleeson. Well, if we're looking for brace girdle magic, it's highly unlikely that they'll keep the run going as Christian nudges this to Dane Vilas at mid-on, and there's no run. We've often said it'd be nice to see a little bit more of Dan Christian, because he's very often just gone out there with an over and a half or 2 overs left in an innings and teed off a couple of times, but we've never really seen him have the opportunity to bat long and deep in a T20 match. Well, he can pretty much bat for the next hour and a bit more if he wants. We're only at the start of the 6th over here. Somebody needs to stay there and get a big one. Christian forces it into the offside, and there's no run. 30 for 5. I don't think any side, certainly since they've been playing 14 group matches, has gone through the entire group undefeated. It's always inevitable that a side loses a match here or there, but Notts won't have wanted to lose to Lancashire, who will be seen as one of their great rivals, I guess, along with Warwickshire, or Birmingham Bears as they're called, for the top 2 spots. A lot of work to do here. Gleeson in again to Christian. Again, he can't get him away. Plays it down into the ground, and Gleeson fields off his own bowling. Pretty sensational stuff this from the Blackpool-born seamer, 34 years of age now. He will have enjoyed getting rid of former teammate Ben Duckett. Samit Patel followed a couple of deliveries later, and well, Stephen Mullaney pushing it. I think Tim David has been accredited with the run out. I thought it was Keaton Davis at first, but Tim David with an accurate throw, beating Mullaney's scramble for the line. Next ball tickled away for 4 runs.
Buys, I think.
There was an appeal by the bowler, but off the pad, and Notts get 4 runs. They won't mind whether it's bat, pad, helmet or what it is, but they get 4 runs down the leg side. Count as another dot ball, of course, for Gleeson. He's keeping his figures merrily intact, and Dan Christian yet to get off the mark, but 4 runs. There's 1 delivery left in the power play here. The Outlaws are 34 for 5, losing wickets at 5, 10, 11, 11 and 29 when Tom Moores fell in the last over. Gleeson to bowl to the Notts skipper. Christian forces it into the offside, into the cover region. Stephen Croft fields, and that's the end of the power play. Notts are 34 for 5. At the same stage, Lancashire were 56 for 1. That alone tells you just how far behind the 8 ball they are. Hales and Christian there, they've seen it all before, but pretty much need to bat and bat and bat for the next 15 overs. And as you said, that run rate escalating, almost 10.5 now, and it's only going to get higher, you'd imagine, with Lancashire now able just to protect the boundaries. 5 fielders pushed out.
Yeah, you know, it's almost a resigned feel, isn't it? That all, I suppose, what people are hanging around for now is the fact that Alex Hales and Dan Christian are both in. They know what entertainment they can provide. Whether they can do that provision for long enough, or whether it's just a flash in the pan, we'll have to wait and see. But it's going to have to take something absolutely extraordinary from here.
I was expecting the leg spin of Matt Parkinson, but instead Lancashire have gone to Liam Livingston's off spinners. He bowls to Hales, who forces it in the offside. He has started mixing it up a little bit. Liam Livingston has started working 1 or 2 out of the back of the hand. Whether he's got enough to bamboozle Alex Hales, we'll see. And Hales has hit this one up in the air, and this could be the end of Hales' evening as well. And Livingston has come on with a wretched delivery and picked up Alex Hales' second ball. And well, think we might just as well turn the floodlights off at this point and all very quietly leave the ground. It's 34 for 6. Alex Hale's out for 15. He's not had an awful lot of cricket in truth. He's very much looked undercooked in the first couple of matches. 2 against Worcestershire, 15 last night, and he's gone for 15 again. Knots 34 for 6 in the 7th over.
Yeah, it started up with 2 leg spinners. First one was very quick and it probably just cramped him for a little bit of room, took him by surprise. Second one, similar pace, but probably even shorter, and should have probably been just dropping now into Radcliffe-on-Trent airspace, and he's clothed it straight up in the air. A running catch in, and Notts capitulating into a heap, unfortunately.
Matt Carter on his way out to the middle. I would, well, I'd bet a silver shilling or two that he's never before gone out to the crease in the 7th over in a T20 game. I'm sure somebody will find somewhere that he has, but I certainly can't remember it. It's very rare that Nottinghamshire collapse as dramatically as they have done since the interval in this one. Carter out there for the 39th ball of the innings at 34 for 6. Livingston bowls to Matt Carter and he's away first ball. As I said at the start of the over, Lancashire can just protect the boundaries. Everybody on the leg side pushed out on the fence for Matt Carter. Took a single there to get down the other end, 35 for 6. Maybe even Lancashire missed a trick there, because they could have brought those fielders up inside the ring and just put a little bit of pressure on Matt Carter, but they almost gave him a single, invited.
Well, he could have got 2 really,
yeah.
And I think that he's thinking, well, Dan's going to win this game, I'm not. But
Livingston bowls and Christian has deflected this nice and fine. That might go for 4. It will indeed. Nicely played by Dan Christian. Gets off the mark with a boundary. Dan Christian 23 not out against Worcestershire, and he was 9 not out when the rains came last night against Northants. So only brief appearances out in the middle, but yet to be dismissed. Says he, touching wood as he says that. 39 for 6. Bit of a gamble, I guess, to go with Liam Livingston, or maybe not. He does bowl fairly regularly in all formats, and now he's asking David Milnes, the umpire, for an LBW appeal. Christian down on one leg.
Milnes says he hit it. Looked like he might have got a bit of glove on it.
Lancashire have plugged the gap. A man in now at short fine to stop Christian sweeping it fine. Here's Livingston in again, bowls, and Dan Christian will push it back to Liam Livingston, who concludes the first over with the wicket of Hales. Only went for 5 runs. That will very much be seen as a success for Lancashire. Notts are 39 for 6 after 7 overs. They require 140 from 78 deliveries.
Well, follow that, Paul. I don't know what to say, really. Things couldn't have gone any worse in the first 6-7 overs. And just as we said, that really it's at a time where no pace has really caused any hardship through the night. Gleeson's come in and knocked a couple over. Wood's knocked one over, and then the spin of Hartley and Livingston has got Hales, and now probably the pick of the spinners, Parkinson, comes on.
Yes, England named a squad to face the Netherlands in a couple of weeks' time in a 3-match series over in the Netherlands. Matt Parkinson not in it. 4 Lancashire players are, but Matt Parkinson isn't. He bowls first ball of his spell to Matt Carter. Had a little bit of a look at it, didn't he? Just almost held the bat out there and followed the turn of the ball, played it down into the ground. Slip positioned in there, Keaton Jennings. As Parkinson in again, tosses it up, and
good spin.
Carter swishing away at fresh air.
Slow, but good spin on it. So it turned and bounced, but not a great deal, which probably led him to play the shot he did.
25-year-old played his first matches for England's white ball sides over the last 12 months. Carter drives this down the ground, gets another single to bring Dan Christian back on strike. 40 for 6. You remember Dan Christian, John, how we were there in that deserted Edgbaston Bowl for finals day in 2020. He took Liam Livingston down, you may remember, 4 consecutive 6s to win the game for Notts in that semi-final, take Notts through to the final, won the Man of the Match award for that. He's going to have to play something of, well, an even greater magnitude to get Notts anywhere near this evening. Parkinson bowls a little push and run here, and Matt Carter's got to be quick, and
It wasn't.
gets down to the other end, and thankfully the Lancashire fielders can't gather the ball cleanly. 41 for 6. That was one of the most soulless evenings I've been at cricket, despite the fact that Notts won a trophy. It was damp, it was miserable, it was very, very late. There was fake crowd noise being boomed through the tannoys.
I find it a soulless place, Dave, to be fair.
Next
now.
delivery is pushed back to the bowler by Matt Carter. 41 for 6. Just wonder what Notts are going to do. Luke Fletcher due in next on the card. Jake Ball and Dane Patterson. So not a deal is an LBW shout. Not likely to go in favour of the bowler, because umpire Blackwell was already walking away, preparing to hand the bowler a sweater. Tight first over, just 2 runs from it, and Notts are 41 for 6 after 8.
Yeah, it's hard here, isn't it? Well, it's hard for everybody. It's probably hard for everybody listening. It's probably hard for everybody watching here this evening at this stage. You know, the game's done, and you know what's the best outcome? Do they take it, you know, slowly from here and try and reduce the deficit of the win, or do they just try and get close as they possibly can? But in terms of a competition, it's over. I'm surprised people aren't streaming out, to be fair.
Livingston to bowl to Christian. He will believe. Positive man. A sweep here. Misses the ball again. Livingston asks David Milnes, and whether he answers the bowler or not, we'll never know. But he's certainly not raised the finger to send Dan Christian on his way.
Probably half term, isn't it? Probably kids haven't got to get home, go to bed for school the next day.
Livingston again bowls. Christian doesn't time it, does he? Get a run, just
Inside
nudging it out
edge.
on the leg side.
Into the pad and drops out.
42 for 6. He's got to find a little bit of cohesion, some rhythm in his batting. Find the ropes 2 or 3 times. 137 more required.
20 or 30 times rather than 2 or 3, I think.
Matt Carter back on strike. Big tall man towers over the crouching Salt, and he's levered this away towards deep mid-wicket. Oh my word, the fielder out there struck lucky, because that one spun sharply, and he was left.
We've talked about that all night, haven't we?
He was left
It's
getting it
Croft
with his
again,
field with his feet.
So, what a lucky boy.
Everything's gone for Lancashire tonight. A little bit of football on the boundary rope. This time Christian plays it out to Stephen Croft. I just wondered if he was going to trap it deliberately there. It was almost trickling by the time it reached him. He could very well have trapped it with his instep. That would have got the crowd very much on his side. 44 for 6.
Blackie's clown shoes are dazzling us here as he walks back.
Livingston from the pavilion end bowls down the leg side. That'll have to be reloaded. Carter, who himself has got flashes of orange on the heels of his shoes, very, very bright, standing out under the Trent Bridge floodlights. Livingston once more bowls, and this one's hit back, and that'll go for 4. That was powerfully struck by Matt Carter, nearly wiped out Dan Christian. It would have summed Notts' evening up, I think, if it had hit Christian and
Wasn't far off him, was it?
not been runs, but that was nicely struck.
Under his armpit.
49 for 6. Let's get another single here. There might be an ironic, sarcastic round of applause for reaching 50. Let's see. We'll find out now, because there is the 50. And there is the round of applause. They're going to get a couple of runs, fielded by Luke Wood. So Notts are 51 for 6 after 9. Matt Carter coming to the party a little bit at the back end of that over. He's on 9. Dan Christian has 7.
Well, 10 off the over. I don't think we are rocking all over the world. However, it's an improvement. 10 and over, still not good enough.
No,
run rate still goes up.
We'll get them within 18 at the end if we were to get 10 and over every one from here on in. Parkinson to bowl. Second over on the bounce. Trial by spin at the moment after Notts were blown away in the early stages. Just joining us, Notts were 11 for 4 and 29 for 5. Nice looking shot down the ground by Dan Christian, but there is a fielder down below the TV gantry down here. Skipper? No, it's not the skipper. It's Liam Livingston. Could just make out the 3. But it wasn't 33, it was 23. 52 for 6. Carter back on strike on 9. He's played all around that, got a leading edge out into the covers. 52 for 6. 3 away games coming up at the weekend for Notts. They go to Derby on Friday, Edgbaston on Sunday, and then Headingley next Monday. This one's pushed into the offside. No run, remains 52 for 6. 14 matches in the group stage, as with the past few years the top 4 will then advance to the quarter-finals to play the top 4 from the South Group. Drive down the ground by Carter, and I'm sure you'll know the stats probably even better than me. I think it's 12 years out of the last 13 that Notts have got out of the group and reached the knockout phase. Dan Christian's calling for a change of bat here. He's used up his playing in weapon, and now he's brought out the assault bat. Going to go for some big hits here. Just scuffing away a little bit of loose soil there, which has appeared from somewhere. 2 balls left in this over. Parkinson bowls. Christian reaches forward and defends it. And close to the halfway stage. Lancashire were 88 for 1 after 10 overs. Notts are 53 for 6 with 1 ball left. Crowd quiet, but Paul's right. They've not left in mass numbers yet. Next one has gone through. Salt whips off a bail. Tidy stuff from Parkinson. He's 2 overs, none for 4. It's 53 for 6 after 10 overs. And as Colin Frey said when he handed over to me 5 overs ago, Notts almost in need of a miracle. I'll hand it back to him. Just wondering if he can find some miracle men this evening.
Do you believe in miracles?
I have seen one with my own eyes across the road this year. We shall see if Notts can find one here. 53 for 6, and Carter is on 10, and it is going to be Hartley to return to the attack. Left arm spin, and Carter pulls him away through mid-wicket for a 1 bounce forward, just inside the boundary ropes. And Matt Carter is starting to enjoy himself a bit out there. I suppose he's playing with some pressure off, isn't he? 14 he's got off 13 balls. 57 for 6, no real expectation on him at the moment. And he's had a swing at that one and crunched a nice 4 through mid-wicket. He's tried to do the same again. He's hit on the pads and it's all over for him. He's been given LBW. Down onto one knee, and he's very slow to get that tall frame back up off that one knee, because Notts have lost their 7th wicket as Carter tries to repeat the dose against Hartley, but he's gone LBW for 14, and Notts are 57 for 7.
Well, you can't blame Matt Carter. You know, the guys coming in now are playing for very little. They are in a position where you look at this tail, you know, for 8 Carter, 9 Fletcher, 10 Ball, 11 Patterson, or in and around sort of that. It is quite a long tail, and what you need is for your top 6/7 to do a lot of batting, and they've been blown away. So anything that's happening now, you can't, you know, level anything other than, you know, despair at what happened in the first 6 overs, 7 overs.
Yeah, first 2 overs really, Paul. 11 for 4 after 2 overs.
Done.
Not going to win much from there. 57 for 7 then, and Luke Fletcher is the new batsman. Dan Christian stands at the non-striker's end with 8 to his name, and Hartley bowls full-length delivery up to Fletcher, who prods it out towards mid-on, and they run through for a single. Dan Christian has performed a few cricketing miracles in his career, but probably not anything like this to try and win from this position. Plays this one out pleasantly beyond point, and there's another single. As you mentioned, the crowd are sticking with it.
Vast majority of them, aren't they? It's to be commended.
Hoping against hope.
I think I'd be off up to Bridgeford Field to get my car out early.
Here's Hartley into Fletcher again, who's defending this away out to the diving Parkinson. No run.
Still a quarter of the game left.
And he comes again, Hartley, and Fletcher has a think about a single as it's played down towards fine leg, but he turns and he's got enough time to get back into his ground. And so that's the end of the 11th over. 59 for 7. 6 off it, but another wicket going in the shape of Matt Carter after his very pleasant shot off the first ball of the over to get 4. And Parkinson is going to continue from the Radcliffe Road end. Dan Christian on 9. He struggled to get the ball away. 17 balls he's faced. See what he can do with the 18th as Parkinson begins the 12th over. And he's down the pitch a couple of paces and defending it away back to the bowler. Lancashire earlier scored 178 for 7. They were 88 for 1 at the halfway stage. So at the time, that 178 seemed a good result for Notts, as down the pitch again comes Christian. Plays this away out towards mid-wicket, but they're only going to get 1 as the fielders scamper round. It's Luke Wood who gets to it first. Christian tells Fletcher that there isn't a second run there. Clear skies above now, and a couple of rain delays earlier on, probably adding up to about 25 minutes or so. Here's Parkinson again into Fletcher, who plays this uppishly but safely out towards mid-wicket, because the field on that side, as is so often the case, is scattered out to the boundary. And it's another single. Here's Parkinson again. That's down the leg side. It's just allowed to run behind his legs by Christian, and that'll be a wide. 62 for 7. Run rate required is almost at 14 and over. And Notts are nowhere near it as Christian plays this up towards long off, and there's just a single again. Need some Fletcher fireworks.
Cool. Must be New Year's Eve, I think.
There is Parkinson again. Oh, he's trying. Oh, there's one of them. That's 6. That's gone sailing over mid-wicket, over the hover cover, and out towards the William Clark stand, where it falls just short. More of that, please. 69 for 7.
A lot more of that.
Got fully hold of that, Luke Fletcher. And they're still, we've decided, we're trying to decide, the Lancashire fielders, who to go and get the ball. Eventually, one of them's decided. Note from Dave that he once hit Parkinson for 4 sixes in a row back in 2018, the one-dayer. Well, that would liven things up a bit if he could do that again. Although there is only 1 ball of this over to come. Fletcher moving around in his crease, and he hoiks this round to a fine leg, but it's well stopped. Up inside the circle, and so there's no run off the last ball of the over. 12 overs have gone. It's 69 for 7. 13 3/4 runs needed per over, and only 3 wickets in hand. strange old time in the game, really, isn't it? Because I think everybody knows. I know that the batsman will think, well, you never know, but deep in their hearts, they know what a huge, huge ask that is. And it's just kind of, it's just a question of playing out time, really, isn't it?
It is. You know, you'd say you're going to try and save face, but you know, you've already got a mask on, haven't you? You know, it's done. It's bad time, but you know, there's still balls to bowl, there's still runs to be got. But yeah, as a spectacle, we're done, aren't we?
Christian plays this away out towards square leg off Liam Livingstone. It falls short of the interested looking fielder out on the square leg boundary. Keaton Jennings.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. About a yard short of him, maybe 2 yards, bounced up into his hands. And there was only time for a single, which brings Luke Fletcher on to strike. He has a big swing at this, trying to deposit Livingstone either into or over the Fox Road stand, and gets hit on the pad, and there's no run. 70 for 7. Livingstone in again. Oh, he's got hold of this one, Luke Fletcher. That is into the Fox Road stand, and it's about 3 rows from the back. And Luke Fletcher is doing his best to give us some entertainment, even if the game may have gone.
He's made contact with that. He'd have been saying to his mate upstairs, Alex, you do it like that.
Fletcher on to 14, which makes him second top scorer in the Notts innings so far. Dan Christian at the other end on 12. Alex Hales made 15. Matt Carter also made 14.
I think it's just gone down the gap between the Larwood and Vos and the Fox Road stand into the car park at the back.
I wonder if it bounced. I think it went into the stand, didn't it?
No, I don't think it did.
Did it not?
Yeah,
did it
no,
miss the stand?
I think it just, yeah, 1 or 2 people straight away looked over the edge. So it's probably just gone in the car park and out onto the road.
There's 1 or 2 people would be worried about their cars in that car park tonight. Liam Livingstone hit one right over the roof of the Fox Road stand earlier.
Yeah.
And here is Livingstone. He's banged this one in really short, and they're going to go through for wide. And then there's an overthrow as well, and Notts are unable to take advantage of it because both Christian and Fletcher had gone way beyond.
No ball, it's massively high.
Yeah. Looped up over his... He banged it in really short, and then it just looped up over Fletcher's head. 79 for 7. And that's going to be a wide now down the leg side to Dan Christian. Some problems here for Liam Livingstone at 80 for 7.
I think he's just lost the plot a little bit.
Here he is again. And Christian
Out.
is in danger of losing his wicket here, and he has. Keaton Jennings at deep backward square. I thought when he first hit it, Dan Christian, that he might have got enough on it to take it over Keaton Jennings and into that Fox Road stand again, but it was actually straight to the fielder, and Jennings takes a comfortable catch. And Dan Christian is gone for 12, and Notts are 80 for 8.
Yeah, didn't get all of it. Certainly didn't get anywhere near enough of it. And from us saying that Livingstone sort of lost the plot, he's got one into an area. It was probably a little bit too short to get it right the way around there. Lobbed up. Hartley came in a couple of yards off the boundary, judged it well. Back he goes.
Jake Ball to the tail. Fletcher up the non-striker's end. Jake Ball preparing to face Livingstone. And he's beaten. That one.
How is that missed?
Stayed low, perhaps. It just beat Jake Ball.
I don't know how that missed.
Missed the stumps through to the wicket-keeper. Here's Livingstone again into Ball, who's backing away from this one, and that's fielded cover by Tim David, no, not Tim David, Matt Parkinson it was, who seemed to knock the ball into his face. He's okay, and they get a single, and it's 81 for 8 at the end of 13 overs. And they need to score at 14 and over, this penultimate pair. 81 for 8. Ball has 1, Fletcher has 15, and Lancashire are cruising towards a very comfortable victory here at Trent Bridge. So Notts off to a winning start Friday night, hampered by the weather yesterday, having to settle for 1 point. And they are heading for defeat here, as this is bottom edge by Jake Ball into the ground. Parkinson's last of his 4 overs. Over the wicket, ball comes dancing down the pitch. Fielder waiting for it, takes the low catch. Who did he? No, it's just in front of him. No, he did take it. Yep, he did take it right down in front of us. Tim David was the man. And it's another wicket gone. Jake Ball is gone. He goes for 1. Notts are now 81 for 9. It's a good catch in the end. He had to sort of stretch forward. Only 1 fielder for Lancashire has even bothered going across to congratulate Tim David for the catch. And it's 81 for 9. And it is the final knockings, as Dane Patterson makes his way out to the middle. Not the start they'd have wanted, this Notts, from 3 home games. Obviously the weather intervened last night, but they'd have wanted to make a real impact in this division with 4 away games coming up next.
You know, it's tough, because you do half a job relatively well. They could have scored, what, 20 more, couldn't they? Kept it down to 178, and you just get blown away in a very, very short period of time. You know, 2 overs and the game's done, 4 down. And you say, you know, game done in 2. It is done in 2 overs. When no disrespect, but you've got a tail like that. You're not going to get many runs from your back 4. The first 6 or 7.
Swiped out by Patterson, they'll get 1.
I've got to pretty much do all the batting, and when you're 4 down in 2 overs, then you cut adrift, you've had it.
82 for 9. Don't forget, commentary coming up from Derby on Friday, from Birmingham on Sunday afternoon, from Leeds, from Headingley on Monday. Next 3 games, then it's Leicestershire later next week. As this is up in the air over mid-wicket, it is going to drop safely in between 2 fielders, and there'll be a single for Fletcher.
You know, 2 of the best finishers in the world. If you had Michael Bevan and David Hussey out there, they ain't
not going to do anything
back,
here.
Really, from 4 down, 11 for 4 after 2 overs, it would take something phenomenal.
Parkinson to bowl the last ball of the 14th over.
An interesting bet tonight to say that Luke Fletcher was going to be the highest run scorer for Notts.
Patterson with a big heave at this one through mid-wicket. Tim David runs around from long on and fields, so just a single, and it's 84 for 9. Patterson will keep the strike for the start of the 15th over. BBC Radio Nottingham. It's Notts head for a crushing defeat in the T20. Yeah, Fletcher 16.
What it also does, to a certain degree, is tells the other sides in the group that, you know, Notts are beatable, and you know, they can be fragile. And we've known for a while, Dave and Colin, that, you know, when they go badly, don't they? But not like tonight. You know, there were so many things at the top end that, you know, they'll look at and think, you know, that it's not going to happen again, but it just really can't happen again. Can't let that happen again.
Defended by Patterson. Yes, you know, out of that top 5 or 6, you normally get, even if it's a bad day, you'll get 1 or 2 of them firing. And on a good day, they'll all fire. But tonight, It's been disastrous for Notts as this one is played out towards mid-wicket for a single for Dane Patterson.
You know, Clark, I'd say good catch. Duckett, questionable whether he nicked it or not, but he's on his way. Samet, fine short, fine leg.
This is heaved away by Luke Fletcher for 6, a flat 6 into the Fox Road stand. And as I mentioned earlier, Fletcher enjoying himself while he can. The flamethrowers throw up their jets once again as Fletcher moves on to 22. That includes 3 maximums from him now.
Short, fine leg, hot, caught, second attempt, and then the disastrous run out.
That run out was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Halfway down the pitch. Here's Fletcher again. He's skied this one, and there are 2 fielders running in, racing in from the boundary. Oh, diving forward to take the catch. That's a great catch.
The volley wasn't bad after it either.
I think it was Croft again who takes the catch and wins the match for Lancashire, who have won by 87 runs as Notts are bowled out for 91. It's Luke Fletcher. It was Croft running in, racing in from the mid-wicket boundary to take the catch. Fletcher is gone for 22. Livingston gets a 3rd wicket. And Croft takes an excellent catch, running in and then diving forward. And Lancashire win the game by 87 runs. It is a resounding, a thumping victory for Lancashire. And as we say, Paul Johnson, Notts have to regroup pretty quickly and get themselves back on the road, starting up the road at Derby on Friday night. Good place to respond, that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think, you know, you can analyse that all you want. I think what they'll do is they'll go up there and say, lads, right, let's put this to bed. Okay, let's regroup, start again. That ain't going to happen again. We can't let that happen again, and we're too professional, and things went against us tonight that any other time probably wouldn't. You know, there's probably, you have to look at, you in 2020 your top 7 should do the batting, so you can't look beyond 7, even though it is quite 8, 9, 10 and 11 is quite, you know, a pack of cards and, you know, fall over fairly quickly, but those top 7 have to take responsibility. They haven't, you know, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 players, 3 of which are from, well, 3 of which 7, 8 and 9 who have got double figures. Okay, only 1 batter in the top 6 has got double figures, and to be fair, by the time he faced his first ball, we're 4 down. Yeah, I think.
Well, I wonder if that's ever happened to him in his career before.
4 down, not faced the ball.
4 down, not faced the ball when you're the opening batsman.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's happened to any opening batsman before.
Well, I think they were 4 down after 11 balls, weren't they?
Yeah.
So, you know, are you going to be 4 down after 11 overs ever again? Wait, I'm not going to say never again, but, you know, you'd like to think, right, once a year we do that. It's happened at this stage, let's put it to bed and move on.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? They've got, you know, they've now won 1, effectively drawn 1, lost 1 of the first 3 games, and they've got 14 qualification games. It's hardly the end of the world, is it?
They are a well-experienced bunch. You know, there won't be any bin kicking up there or bloody air dryers and bits and pieces. They'll just say, look, you know, we're better than that. We know we're better than that. We can't let that happen again. You know, go home, have a think about it. Let's come back, regroup, and crack on with our practice and get back in this group as quick as we can. That's all you can do. You know, you can throw teacups around and, you know, do whatever you want, but it's not going to get you anywhere. All it's going to do is lose your respect. Every person in that dressing room tonight will know that they've let themselves down. You know, that's all that needs to be. You know, they'll crack on.
Thank you, Paul. That is Paul Johnson, the former Notts batsman and captain, with us here tonight on BBC Radio Nottingham. Grateful as always for his time. Thanks as well to Dave Bracegirdle, who's been alongside us and will be back with me on Friday night down the A52 down at Derby, as Nottinghamshire look to recover from what has been a pretty chastening defeat here at Trent Bridge tonight, as they go down to Lancashire by 87 runs. Nottinghamshire needed 179 and were all out for 91. Luke Fletcher was the top scorer with 22. Alex Hales 15, Matt Carter made 14. It was a sorry card. Clark 4, Duckett 5, Patel and Mullaney no score, Moores 2. Dan Christian made 12 and Jake Ball in the lower order 1, and Dane Patterson was the not out batsman for 3. There were 13 extras in Nottinghamshire's total of 91 all out in just under 15 overs. You don't see Nottinghamshire trounce like that very often in T20 cricket. As we say, on the road next Monday it's at Headingley. On Sunday it is the second part of the Jubilee weekend doubleheader at Birmingham, and first up on Friday night as Notts go to their local rivals Derbyshire. We will be back with you from the county ground in Derby on Friday night here on BBC Radio Nottingham on our FM frequencies and online as well on the BBC Sport website. For now, though, we're going to link up with listeners to digital radio on BBC Radio Nottingham who are listening to the evening show with Charlie Burley.
Okay, so thank you to Colin, to Paul and to Dave for their commentary in today's fixture, in which Lancashire Lightning take the victory. Nottinghamshire got to 91 all out, meaning that Lancashire won by 87 runs. We will be speaking to somebody from the Notts dressing room very, very shortly, but it is Lancashire that take the victory. And to be honest, they took it at quite a canter as well. But we will have post-match reaction coming up very, very shortly from the Notts dressing room. Do stick with us. Okay, I'm now joined by head coach Peter Moores. Pete, obviously a difficult one to take there. What's your kind of reaction? Where did we lose the game? Where do you think it was kind of lost?
Oh, well, sometimes you lose a game, you're not going to overanalyse that too, because they're out-batted, out-bowled, out-fielded really. So credit to Lancs, they played really well. They got off to a good start, and we never really pegged them back. I thought we did okay right at the end, and then I can't remember a time when we'd lost 4 wickets before Alex Hales faced the ball. So yeah. Extraordinary start. So you give credit to Lancs. I think it's one for us to move on pretty quick. We're a good team. We play some good cricket, so I think we move on and we get ready for the next game.
I was going to ask that, because especially in this format, you can move on quite quickly, and even when we win, you necessarily don't analyse it too much because you've got another game coming around the corner. Is this just one of those games, like you say, you kind of don't necessarily even talk about it in the dressing room, everybody knows what happened, you mention one word maybe, and you move on to Friday?
I think so. I mean, we're all straight with ourselves as a team. We work really hard behind the scenes, really, in our prep. When we go out and play, we go and try and put on a show and do our stuff. 2020, you got to accept sometimes it doesn't work, and that was one of those nights tonight. We've not had many like that at Trent Bridge. We've won a lot of games here, and we take it on the chin. We give Lancs the credit. We move on fast. We play again on Friday. We now go into a bank of 4 games away from home, so we'll get stuck into them. We know how to qualify. We know what we've got to do. You've got to get your wins. But it's a long tournament, so I think the key is now to take it for what it is, move on fast and get ready to go and play again.
Is that where the experience in this team and squad possibly works quite well, in the sense of people have been here for many years, they've maybe experienced tough, I don't want to say tough times, but these kind of games, and that's where you can rely on the experience of the lads?
I think so. I mean, I think we've won it obviously a couple of times the last few years. I think both of those times we lost the first 2, I think, and went on and qualified and went to win it. So the key is that you said before, you don't dwell too much on a win or too much on a loss. The key is, can you qualify? Can you get to that knockout stage? And that's what we'll be focusing on. We won't change the way we go about what we do, really. We'll prep up properly as we should do. We'll come on. We're always disappointed when we lose in front of our home fans. I'd say it hasn't happened very often over the last few years. But as I say, I give Lancs credit. We didn't play as well as we can, we know that. But we'll be looking forward to bounce back on Friday.
You mentioned Friday, and you just mentioned a minute ago about this run of away games as well. Is that, they always say in sport, away games, you kind of, the lads, you have the travel on the coach, etc. It's a different atmosphere. We're not in front of our own fans. Is that a good thing that we're away for a few games now, or is it just another game and we play in another game to qualify?
I don't think it really makes much difference to us, really. We love playing at Trent Bridge. We love playing in front of our own fans. But we're happy to go on the road. You know, Derby's a big game, local game, always a big game. Yeah. So that's one to really look forward for everybody. We'll get a lot of people down there, I'm sure. And we won't look too far ahead of that, really. We'll get stuck into that game. And as I say, if we play well, try and get a win and get ourselves back on the winning track.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much for your time. I will let you get back up to the dressing room. Appreciate it as always, Pete. And maybe next time we talk to you, as you just mentioned to me, it won't be in a situation like this, Pete. But appreciate your time as always.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right, mate. Thank you very much. Okay. Thanks to head coach Peter Moores there for joining us. So that is it, really. The boys are off qualifying. Sorry, they are doing their signatures with the crowd here at Trent Bridge. Thank you very much for joining us. As Pete just mentioned there, the game next is an away game at Derbyshire. So if you want to head down there, please do and support the Outlaws. But we will be back here later on in June when the Birmingham Bears are in town. But from everybody here at Trent Bridge Live, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you very, very soon.